Saturday morning, everyone, July the 19th, 2025, 710 KNUS. It's going to be a hot day. Phone number's 303-696-1971. Coming up, George Brauchler's on the show, and then Dick Wadhams. But I want to go right to work. I think this is one of the best investigative reporter writers that has ever been on the Denver scene for years with Westword, Michael Roberts. And I've been looking at the Epstein story and then the story of the Denver players and Sugar and Scotty Ewing. And I made a phone call. And at first I talked to Patty Calhoun about this. And then I thought, and she and I both said Mike Roberts, who had written so much about what happened during Players and Sugar. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael joins us. Thank you, sir, for taking time out, and welcome back to 710.
Thanks so much, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Oh, please. I went back in the morgue, and I dug up some of the stories that you had done, and this one headline just jumped off at me. How Power Elite Kept Michael Hancock Out of Prostitution Ring Scandal. You wrote it in 2018. Do you see analysis or comparison between what we're watching with the Epstein story and what we're watching with the Hancock and Denver's Power Elite?
You know, I do see a comparison there. Obviously, there are significant distinctions between Denver Sugar and the Epstein scandal. And Denver Sugar, for example, as I think Patty mentioned, no one died. So we're talking about, a different sort of level of intrigue on this comparison. But there's no question that powerful interests did everything they could to try to separate my former Denver Mayor Michael Hancock's alleged participation with the Denver Players, Denver Sugar prostitution ring, and just as is happening with the Epstein case, we're covering up, we're hiding, we're trying to prevent the names of powerful people and their culpability from becoming public. And this is obviously given the current president a real political problem, because a lot of the people who are calling for transparency are his base. But in Denver, Michael Hancock managed to skate through the entire thing. Despite occasional revelations trickling to the surface, he was not hurt politically and managed to serve out his terms without interruption, despite all of this material just lingering under the surface.
You used a term in one of the pieces that you did that we used to use when we were young called skating. You skated, and Hancock skated, did he not?
He absolutely skated. He, the most that he ever confessed publicly about, bad behavior in terms of his sexual conduct was that he apologized for sending inappropriate texts to a Denver police officer in 2011 and 2012. But it was deny with the Denver Players stuff. And the article that you refer to includes some material about a phone call between then Denver Post writer Chuck Plunkett and some very powerful folks in the Brownstein law firm. And all of that managed to keep the worst potential blowback from Hancock out of the public eye until the point where it didn't matter anymore.
What I thought was interesting in terms of compare and contrast, we're led to believe that Fox News is totally hands-off. There's a number of radio shows, some of them local, that are totally hands-off, won't talk about the Epstein story. And we know, or at least I believe is a better way to say it, the role the Denver Post played and the role Channel 9 played in covering up for Michael Hancock. Do you agree to any of that?
I agree to the corollary presently. It's going to be interesting to see if things change in the current situation with the Epstein case because of what happened in a related matter, which is that the Wall Street Journal published a piece in which they said that there had been a lewd drawing that Trump had sent to Epstein, and described it in detail. And Trump responded by suing the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion. And the connection there is that Rupert Murdoch owns both the Wall Street Journal and Fox. If this ticks off Rupert Murdoch, maybe we're going to see Fox pick up this story now and start jabbing back.
I thought that too. I said, and Rupert Murdoch lost big, because later in the morning we're going to talk about the Dominion Salem lawsuit and the apology and who knows what happened with it. But Rupert Murdoch paid the biggest amount of money that anyone paid to Dominion, and it was $787 million.
Yeah.
And so what does Rupert and his two sons know now? This time they had to be pretty damn sure they had their goods before they did it. Do you believe that?
I absolutely believe that. I cannot imagine they would go through that story if they don't have it dead to rights. Now, this is Trump's go-to in terms of, suing and dragging out cases and hoping that they just kind of spend themselves as they go through the court system. And he's had tremendous success with it. He basically got both ABC and CBS to bow down to him in various court cases where, a previous generation of those journalistic entities might have fought him to the end. So it's a strategy that's proven to be successful, and it may work in this case. But what you've got in Murdoch is someone who, while he is not as in the public eye as he once was, is an extraordinarily powerful person and someone who doesn't like to kowtow to anybody. So it's entirely possible that this becomes bloodier in a public sense than we could have expected if Fox picks up that story and goes after him.
Michael Roberts is with us. We're talking about Michael Hancock and back to Donald Trump and the Epstein scandal. One of the things that, at least from my reading, there's been books called Hoax and different books about when the lawsuit and Fox makes a decision. The decision was made literally on the courthouse steps that they didn't want to go in there. I think Salem did the same thing. I think Salem, after there was conversation of people saying they couldn't wait to get in front of a jury, they couldn't wait to be deposed, who ran out of depositions. And then when the moment came, the company settled. Rupert settled, but the conversation was he knew if he went in the courtroom, it would be $1 billion. So he took the lower number that's staggering anyhow. But no one was ever sued. What I thought was interesting in the Scotty Ewing story, and I got to know Scotty, is he got 6 months home detention. He sold players to a woman named Brenda Stewart, who at one time had been an employee, and she got 6 months home detention. No one did time for any of this. I mean, in terms of serious time. What do you make of that?
Well, I think this is a story that all folks involved wanted to try to quiet down, to tamp down. You were one of the few public figures who was trying to bring it to the fore, and as you mentioned, both the Denver Post and and 9 News had possession of material that could have been explosive, and they didn't, light the fuse. So, I think all of these powerful interests decided at the end of the day that it was in their interest not to have this whole thing blow up. So Scotty Ewing and Brenda Stewart ended up taking falls, but it could have been a lot worse for them too.
He did 6 months home detention and then came to do the radio show. I've told the story before. The same people that fired me did everything they could to stop him appearing, and they didn't want him in the studio, and he only named one person as a client, and that was what you had mentioned earlier, the phone conversations between Chuck Plunkett, who was nothing to be proud of, and the Bronstein Law Firm. And the other one was and I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but it was a mail-in ballot and Michael Hancock was running against Chris Romer, and we had gotten the page of the book that they claimed didn't exist, and made the phone call, and he answered. I mean, his voice answered his cell phone. And
yeah, we have had this conversation, and it's a fascinating one. It's also amusing that Michael Hancock's name on that page was misspelled as Handcock,
and that's what Plunkett tried to make. Well, that really wasn't Michael. and he never mentions my phone call. I went back and looked at his work again to make sure we were going to be okay for today. But Hancock was a client of the escort service. And anyhow, so long story short, I meet Chris Romer, and he's waiting to go up to do the Rosen show. And the Romer family wasn't particularly fond of myself and your old boss, Patricia Calhoun, and Tom Tancredo, I might answer, and Tom was part of that. But I looked at him, I said, don't throw away your yard signs. You're in the game. I never see him again, and then I was invited to a party of a dear friend of mine a couple summers later, and there's Chris Romer. And I went over, and he obviously we shook hands, and we started talking about it. And he said, "Did you know about the tapes?" And I went, "What?" And he said, "Of course." He said, "There's tapes." Now, that's Jeffrey Epstein right off the top of the deck. He said, now Chris Romer said to me, there were tapes made at Scotty Ewing's place off of City Park, or not City Park, City Park. And so the tapes were out there. And then a real disappointment to me was the chief at the time was Chief Whitman. And I think whatever happened, then there's a great story of the break-in, where everything just disappears out of Scotty's house in a break-in. What do you do with all of that?
Well, I had not heard about the Chris Romer conversation about the tapes. That is fascinating information, and it doesn't take a conspiratorial mindset to put those pieces together and think that they're somehow connected. There was certainly an effort to move heaven and earth to keep all of this stuff as underground as it possibly could be. And it worked. It worked in Denver. It may not work here nationally, but it certainly worked here.
It certainly did, and it cost a lot of people their jobs. And I lost respect for so many people during this. But Tony Kovaleski did that stuff later, and that was about Leslie Branch Wise, who claimed that she was sexually, what's be the right term to use, by
probably harassed.
Harassed, okay.
Yeah, and that's the person who I was referring to earlier about the inappropriate text, right. Leslie Branch Wise.
Yeah, but back to the initial. Do you? Not for a second do I believe all the pressure that was applied anywhere and everywhere they could had nothing to do with this young city councilman who had just been elected mayor. This was about a lot of very powerful men and women, and Scotty as much as admitted, without ever giving me the names of the people who attended or were clients or whatever, and they knew who everybody was. They knew everybody. And I think, do you believe that, and you used that term power elite, the C. Wright Mills term, the power elite kept Hancock out of the scandal, did they not?
I absolutely believe that. I believe that it was a confluence of high-powered law firms and media outlets and political pressure, and all of those things came together to squash this story. And various things trickled out over the years, but it's key that the story that you're referring to was written in 2018. Time was able to pass, and those things dragged out in a way that they if things had the initial impact that they could have, Michael Hancock's career in Denver might have been very, very different.
Our guest is, and again, Michael Roberts is with us, going back into that time period, and that's why the Chris Romer, there were tapes. This was a statement released by the Denver Department of Safety. There are no videotapes, photographs of any evidence held by the Denver Police Department of Michael Hancock entering or leaving 1675 Fillmore Street, or his vehicle at or near the address, and photographs of his license plate at that facility. Not at that facility, but what about the other facilities? And again, looking back, both of us looking back, we now know more than we did while the story was rolling. But at the 1675, that was Scotty Ewing's headquarters.
Yeah, and the quote that a lot of this material from Bruce James, the Brownstein lawyer, here's another excerpt. We believe the story they are investigating is completely without merit and are anxious to prove that the rumors about his presence at 1675 Fillmore are absolutely false. However, under no circumstances are we authorizing or consenting to the release of the requested materials directly to 9 News, and we hereby object to their request. All of the requested materials should be delivered directly to me as counsel for Mr. Hancock. So, it's completely without merit, but just in case there is some merit, let's not have any of that material out.
Yeah. And then when Chris Romer told me there were tapes, and I remember them saying, and also at the time, there was a woman reporter at Channel 9 by the name of Deborah Sherman. What happened to Deborah Sherman, and why, the best of your knowledge?
Well, I know, if I'm recalling correctly, and this is going back into the depths of my memory, that Deborah Sherman ended up being a public information officer for, I think, the Douglas County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, I think she went to the feds, and then you're right. I think she's there now. But something happened at Channel 9, and there was just, and I think, I mean, I did what I did to Greg Hollenbach, but I think that they were laying in the weeds for me because I told you that story where they tried to stop me from having Scotty Ewing in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 people called me, and including Pat Connor, who fired me. And I'm not saying, I didn't have anything coming, but I think the heat must have been so intense coming from outside sources to Pat and Mandis and the rest of them not to have him on. And I think they were probably major advertisers, power brokers, as you mentioned, lawyers, bond daddies. I think there were sports players, sports figures, and of course KOA was the voice of the Broncos, voice of the Nuggets, voice of the Rockies. I have a break. Do you mind, would you stay through one more quick segment? I know you're giving us time on a Saturday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have another commitment here, so okay. I'm not going to be able to do that. But you're still standing after all of that, Peter. You should be commended.
Wow.
All of the brickbats that have been thrown your way over the years, you're still here. So
as you are as well.
You should be lauded for that.
Thank you, Michael. I'll call you. Be safe today. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks again.
We come back with open lines, 303-696-1971. 92 will be the high.
Your 710 5-day forecast today and Sunday. We're going to have sunshine, which will lead to a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms thanks to a weak monsoon. Weekend highs lower to mid-90s with lows in the mid-60s. Into the work week, more isolated storm activity confined to the foothills. Lots of sun on the plains. Highs continue to be hot in the mid-90s with lows upper 60s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Dawn Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We have a line open, 303-696-1971. It's Saturday, the 19th of July. 710 KNUS 92, the high, 63 tonight, and 94 on Sunday. Coming up, George Brauchler will join us, and Dick Wadhams is on the show. We'll go to the phones in a second. Danny Kaplis in the law firm. I'm telling you, if you get jammed up and you're in a moment or something's happened, you need a lawyer. It's Kaplis. Danny's son of a cop. We've talked so much about him growing up, and believed to be the only attorney in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan is the official law firm now of the Nuggets and the Avalanche. He is just a good man. And the serious firm, serious cases, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on percentage fee basis. He can represent good people from all walks of life without the ability to pay. So if you need the man, he is the man. 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551. Or on the internet, Dan Kaplis Law, Kaplis Law.com. He did the job for my family. He will do the job for you if things get tough. You want Kaplis. 303-770-5551. Lines are jammed. We start with Mike. Mike, you're on a radio show Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. I definitely know that the list exists because I saw it. I retired Denver cop. I'm the guy that turned you on to that book that you did about the United States.
Yes.
So the list exists. I was a community resource officer in District 2, and I got a complaint that there was possible prostitution being operated off City Park, right near East High School.
Yep.
Started doing some investigation right off of York and Colfax there. And, was just kind of doing some follow-up and found out the location and, just kind of doing some follow-up. And as usual, as a community guy, you kind of, whenever you get prostitution or narcotics complaints, you kind of check in with guys and see if maybe Narcs or Vice is working a location and see if you don't want to step into something that they're already working or sitting on. But anyway, didn't hear anything, and so basically started, running checks and just kind of did a knock and talk on this place. And, it seemed, just like a residence, kind of.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Ballpark lofts.
Yeah,
he had a place. He had a place in the ballpark lofts. He had Ellsworth and Lincoln. He had the Fillmore House.
Yeah, nice place. Basically,
But you come back to the. How did you see the list?
So anyway, basically, I got word from HQ downtown on Cherokee to stop. Just quit.
I believe that.
Stop. Okay. And this came from the 4th floor. Stop.
Yes.
Just let this thing go. You are to look into it any further.
Yes.
So I walk into Vice and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Mm-hmm. And so they said, we're looking into this thing. And we got the same order. And we did the investigation on this place.
I believe all of it. Sure.
And take a look at this list, and you'll see why.
I see.
Someday since neither one of us drink anymore, over iced tea, I'll tell you the list. And I mean, Hancock's on there. And there was a prominent DPD name on there, and there was a lot of names on there.
Okay.
And
listen.
there was a code name on there for Hancock.
Not actually, no, because I saw that page, and that's where we called, and it said Michael City Council ... cell phone number. And when we called, his voice said, "Hey, it's Michael." You know, I know his voice because he would come and do our radio show with us.
Well,
It was him.
Well, the girls had another name for him, and it was also on this list what his name was that they referred to him as.
Okay.
It was
Nottingham. Remember Judge Nottingham?
A male rooster, and then something that if you ran your fist into a wall,
Okay.
what you would feel. Put the two words together.
I got you. Because they called Judge Nottingham, they called him Naughty. And remember,
There you go.
Federal Judge Nottingham lost his position, chief federal judge in Denver 10th Circuit. And he was...
Well, and yeah. And when I saw this list, I mean, it's like I would imagine this Epstein list is. I mean,
That's
it
my
was
point.
like...
That is my point. Yeah.
It was like Denver's... You're familiar with the 100 Club, Pete.
Yes.
You know, the one that funds our funds when a cop goes down. Okay, there were names on that list that were in the 100 Club.
Sure.
So, I mean, these are the people in Denver that, I mean, these are the front page people.
Sure.
And when I've been listening to you, because I've been listening to you since the Bob days,
Thank you.
Bob days. But anyway, these are the names like I would imagine are on the Epstein list. When you say, well, why doesn't Trump want to release the list? Well, because it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's who's on that list.
Or,
you know, and who's pulling the strings? Who killed Epstein? The people that don't want
absolutely.
to come out.
That's why I see that it dawned on me, if I may, Mike, that these are, with the exception of some, we got a dead guy and these are underage girls they were molesting, but the machinery, the mechanisms are exactly the same, and how it was covered up, and how especially the Denver Post and Channel 9, the role they played is the role Fox News is playing right now, and Hancock gets away with it, and then turns out to do what he does to the Denver police woman. And when what was his name, Leslie Branch Wise, and
right.
So when
who I worked with in District 2, and you know that whole thing over the banana. I mean, you know, I knew Michael when he came out of Hastings College before he, you know, ran. Because he was with the Denver Business League before he became a councilman, and he took over the council there. And just, you know, I knew him when he got out of college. And, you know, I started working with him in District 2. I was a community officer, and then he became, you know, Michael and I were close before he ran for council. So I knew Michael during his whole political career.
He goes, that guy, the McDonald, the guy, I remember his last name was McDonald. That was his partner. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, and I've told this story, so whatever it's worth, there was an issue taking place in Denver about loud motorcycle pipes, and I saw one of the guys 2 Saturday nights ago at a party. He's a member of the Valiants, and I hadn't seen him for a while. It was great, and we talked about this story. So there's guys called the Festel brothers, and they're sound techs, and we got VU meters, and they guys were VUing the Denver police motorcycles, and Denver police motorcycles were about the same as everybody else except, and it was really about this one bar that the guys were down throwing fire on the street at night. Anyhow, we're on the old Freedom Harley Davidson, and it was on West Colfax, and I was doing some voice work for them and doing some selling for them. And so we said, okay, we'll test pipes. And the Festels came and set everything up, and this was during this Hancock scandal, and true story, big four-door black Mercedes pulls up, and if I said his name, you'd probably know it, and had all the way the floor, you know, cashmere on, and he fits in there like I'm going like, there's a bunch of, everybody's got leather on, and there's a Sadie's, and there's a bunch of Harleys and choppers, and so the guy said, walk with me, and we walked towards the city, And a guy, it's a guy I know. I know his wife, and I knew he had some kids. And he said, I'm on the list. And I was going through a divorce that was gutting me. And I made a decision on the street about 2 o'clock in the afternoon that I was not the only people I would, and I never saw the list, and I only know really of one name that was on it because Ewing told me. But short of that, the only thing that really troubled me was this was during the time when they had John's TV, and actually Leslie Branch Wise had been a bait cop, and they put the women police officers out there acting like hookers, and some poor schlub. And they'd be down 6-7 beers, and actually Julie Hayden and I saw Julie the other day at the paper. We were talking about this, and we were and we embarrassed Hickenlooper because they had John's TV, and wait a minute. So I think many of those people who were allocated the laws and enforced the laws were also going to Players and Sugar, as opposed to some poor guy. Well, the one guy we helped was a roofer, and he had a truck full of ladders and all this kind of stuff, and he was down 7-8 beers on a Friday night on payday, and nothing going on for him at home. So what does he do? He pulls over and tries to pick up a bait cop on Colfax, and they put him on TV. They called his old lady. I mean, they jobbed him, and I thought that was really unfair. And
well, one of the last shame things that we did, we caught Buster Schneider using a bait cop on Colfax. Because you're exactly right. Mike, when Mike was still commanding District 2, we caught Buster because I came in from a community meeting, and he goes, "You won't believe who we got in the holding cell in there." I said, "Who?" He goes, "Buster."
Yeah.
And you're right. No, if you saw the list, Peter, I guarantee you'd know, 80% of that list.
I'm told.
And you're right.
Yeah.
These guys are getting in that at Players and Sugar what some poor roofer gets thrown in jail for.
No. I mean, that's during all of this, and but when it got down to it, one of the things I think that they did was it was a tax scam too. Because he had a DBA, and if I go back in my notes, I can tell you what name they used in the DBA. But he told me they only did money and credit cards. But when they caught the Chief Justice, and that was another one of those stories that allegedly sending a working girl in a limo to Cherry Creek to a condo that belonged to the judge's son, and I talked to Scotty about it. He said, "What, you think we used a limo?" I said, "What?" He said, "We used an old beat-up SUV, so we're not riding anybody around in a limo." He just can't, he told me the nuts and bolts of how it worked, and so the little black book, the Epstein address book, and the list for Players and Sugar. Both deep six, but they exist.
The sports figures used the Diamond Cabaret. And, all the visiting sports teams got taken care of at the Diamond Cabaret. And, it goes on and on. And I mean, money and Epstein, I truly believe, was used by the CIA.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there are names on that Epstein list that would shake this world, just like I believe in my soul of souls that the CIA did Jack Kennedy along with those using mafia contacts.
Listen.
I mean, I'll go to my grave saying that.
It's my opinion that you're gonna because of Epstein's work with Al Khashoggi and they did the Iran-Contra the arms deals. I'll bet you there were Saudi princes on there. There was so many different things that you and I were, and I think that Epstein was an asset, as they say, and I also believe that he was murdered. I don't know if you believe that or not, but I believe it.
Of course he was murdered. And why do you think that Trump now has this bruised hand, and he had to shake every Saudi hand, and he bruised his hand doing it? He made those Saudi deals. He had to go over there because Trump isn't dumb, and he's Mr. I'll release everything. Well, there's certain things even Trump's afraid of.
Well,
just like he talks big about the mob, he didn't back down John Gotti and the mob on those concrete deals in New York. I got friends that are New York cops, and they said, yes, he backed off the mafia.
I'm going to jump, Mike. Someday
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a line open coming up. George Brauchler, and I spoke with George yesterday. We texted to try to explain the Salem decision on what was done on this radio station. It's a Saturday morning, July the 19th. It's 92 for a high. You ready? All right, let's do the break. 92 will be the high. Good morning again, everyone. Saturday, 19th of July, 2025. I'm Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. We're all jammed up. Let's go to Dino. Hey, man, my brother, man. Dean, good morning.
Hey, Professor Boyles.
Doctor.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, gosh, I didn't hear. Usually I hear a click. Oh, well. Not that I know you're total you're like an honorary Greek anyway. You gamble a lot. You would have lost some money though. On Bondi's still on the payroll. I thought perhaps you were I heard you all last week.
Yeah.
I thought you hit the nail on the head. Maybe he's gone, but they're trying to do everything they can to help her, and they're disinfecting the lists.
Well, imagine
it's like a stalemate or a Mexican standoff because there's both Dems and Republicans on there. So I don't know how it's going to come out, how it looks.
The world is on there, but the point is that she conceivably could become the John Dean of this entire, whatever you want to call it,
blow up
scandal.
everything, yeah.
Yeah, and if what
Ehrlichman too.
Yeah, I mean, what is headed our way, and of course it depends on midterms, and there's all these different variables, but you could conceive of a Watergate, semicircle with Sam Ervin and those guys sitting there, and Stuart Magruder and Erickman, everybody coming in and testifying under oath, and John Dean was the straw that broke the camel's back. And when you and I see each other privately, I'll tell you the story that Gordon Liddy told me. Gordon Liddy told me about John Dean. But the point I'm trying to make is that you have to hang on to her. Bongino's gone. He's gone dark. I don't know if he's going to work or not. I suspect he is. I don't know about Cash.
I was going to mention that too. He's been quiet down all week. He's been quiet all this week. I haven't heard from him. Yeah.
No, not a word, or at least to the best of my knowledge, not a word. So this whole idea of what happens next, Trump now says release everything.
Well, I think they've disinfected, and also Dershowitz came out recently and said, "Yeah,
he recanted.
The list will be underwhelming." He came out and said that.
He recanted after saying he had seen it. Then he recanted, and the woman that initially claimed Dershowitz had sex with her. And then in the end, she recants. He writes a book about it. And I don't know what to believe. Was Dershowitz lying then, or was he lying now? Or, I mean,
he met her at the nudist place.
Well, these are.
I think he's still nudist. Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that when I listen to, like, Fox News won't touch this story. It's a huge story. And here's one I believe. I believe Hunter Biden's on it. Hunter Biden's probably.
Well, that would surprise me a bit.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Both sides of this. You're saying the world leaders. It would really be huge. I can't imagine it more huge than that. The entire world's involved.
Well, he was doing business in the Middle East. How many Arab princesses, Saudi princesses, came to Little St. James? I mean,
well, sure, that's the culture.
Sure. I mean, it's.
I agree.
So, it's messy beyond, and it can get real bad. And at this point, it doesn't seem like Donald Trump is doing anything to stop it. And he's got a bunch of people at each other's throats. But that goes back to early, and this is analysis, not comparison, but it goes back to early Watergate, when you read what was taking place internally in the White House with Nixon and how he's juggling people. And all of a sudden he realizes that he's in over his head. And
18 minutes of tape is gone. That's what really will do him in as well.
But no one I mean, the taping thing came out. But Dean's great. There's a cancer on the presidency, and if Dean would have held the line, but he did not. He went all out on all out on Nixon. All right, man.
Well, I'll be up there a week and a half. I'm going to call Adam. I got a hold of your. I'll get a hold of your number. We'll do something.
All right,
You're
brother.
the best.
Talk to you, man.
Take it easy, man.
Thank you, Ralph, you're on the radio show. It's a Saturday morning. Good morning.
Well, let me take you off speaker.
Thank you.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, how shall I say? A couple thunder has been stolen, number one. When Mr. Brauchler is on, ask him about the court order that allegedly prevents Dershowitz from saying anything, even as you point out he wrote a book.
Well, George is coming on to talk about Salem and the settlement, so he's not coming on to talk about Epstein. So
okay. Well, I will let that one sit. How shall I say? I'm not Dershowitz was my criminal law instructor, and I really don't think that you put discovery and the rules of evidence in his hand against someone who accuses him of going to the island and participating. That
No,
a lot didn't come out.
I read it. She didn't accuse him of being on the island. She accused him of what happened at the townhome in New York.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's sort of the same thing. I'll just leave it there.
No, but he didn't go on the jet, and he didn't go to Little St. James.
No. He's clear. He's clear. Believe me. Well, anyway, what I wanted to point out is something called tradecraft, and it's one of the oldest spy asset management tools in history. And one title for it is the honeypot. The other is the honey trap.
Sure.
But fundamentally, what you described at Sugars leads me to ask the question, okay, the cops and a bunch of other people had all the names at Sugars. What did they use them for? How much did they get in campaign contributions? How much vigorous did they get on their real estate projects?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that there was any payoffs. I think it was about the power that was the ultra power, as Michael Roberts, the power elite. The power elite comes from Wright Mills, where Wright Mills called it the power elite. And they kept Michael Hancock out of this prostitution ring scandal. Now, then Michael Hancock owes them. And
Precisely.
But they're not doing it to protect this young African American young man who just becomes mayor. They don't give a hoot about him.
No, but what the honeypot functions is doing, and why it's been in spycraft since God was a child, is because it allows you to have blackmail power over whoever that asset is.
It's all true. But
And then go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you could just look at what happened to both of those people, what happened to Scotty, and then Scotty sold the business to a woman named Brenda Stewart. Brenda Stewart got charged with intimidation, money laundering, the list of things. She got 6 months home detention. And that goes back to my and Scotty got 6 months home detention. When I first met him, he was wearing the Irish Rolex when I was taken to his house. And so, but that's what they did. And so you tell me that was it. And then
because what happened, they used the honeypot to protect and to increase their power.
They didn't want a trial. Like Salem didn't want a trial. They don't want to go in there. Rupert Murdoch didn't want to go in there. And nobody, look, push comes to shove, and there's an address book or whatever you want to call it. I know because I talked to Scott. I mean, I really became friends with Scotty Ewing to the chagrin of the power elite at KOA and KHOW. But he told me, I mean, if you think, he told me some stories that I truly believe. I can't tell them on the air because I just can't, but of how it worked, and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, but then take it up a level to the international. I mean, I've heard and read that Epstein was an asset / agent / God knows what of at least the CIA, the British MI6, which is their foreign spy system, and the Israelis Mossad, which is Israeli.
The minute that Prince Andrew shows up, the royal family does not want scandal. And Elizabeth is alive and Philip is alive, and and MI6, I'm sure, somebody got involved somewhere, and because the British royals are not going down on something like this. This is not going to happen. So,
well, which is precisely why, how shall I say, this will not come out no matter what, because it is so much of an asset, so many intelligence agencies.
Let's see.
And,
let's see what
happens.
And
the question that I have is, okay, Donald was a friend of Epstein for, what, a decade at least?
Now I got to cut you. There's the music. All right, thank you. All right, everybody. Coming up on the other side, George Brauchler, and then we'll have Dick Wadhams, and we'll do lots of open lines. I'm Peter Boyles, 630 KHOW. Good morning, everyone, on a Saturday on 710 KNUS. I was so drawn into talking about the Hancock scandal and where was I working at the time, and it was KHOW. So I KHOW'd the ID on the way out. That's smart, Pete. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station, Saturday morning. 92 will be the high, 94 tomorrow, 95 on Monday. Lines are wide open, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler will join us at 9:30. Dick is on the show. Dick Wadhams is on at 10:30. He's on the show. I'm sorry, and George is on the show at 10:30 this morning, and we'll talk about the settlement that took place with Salem Radio and Dominion. I have read, and I don't have the legal expertise to tell you what happened, but Dick Wadhams is going to come on the show as well. It is Salem National Broadcasting Company that we work for, that I work for, that owns several Colorado stations, including this guy, 710 KNUS, has issued an apology, and it's undated, which I'm told is interesting, to former Dominion Voting Systems executive Eric Coomer. And Coomer had filed the anti-defamation lawsuit against the former host in the show here, and as well as the radio station in Salem. And it's about this election conspirator, and we will see. We'll get a run at George and say, explain exactly what happened. And Dick the same way. So now it's wide open lines, 303-696-1971. We began the show with Mike Roberts from Westword talking about the similarities between how the power elite kept Michael Hancock out of the prostitution scandal and what with Epstein. So I guess it in open lines until we get to George. On Epstein, what is it that you think? What do you think is going on with Epstein? And what do you think the truth is? And what's interesting to me, when you read the Epstein stories, they said Epstein had 1,000 plus underage victims. And then all of a sudden, much like what happened with Michael Hancock, the FBI concludes there was no client list. Alan Dershowitz comes on and says, well, there was a client list. I saw it. Now he recants most of that. People are afraid, as I think they were during the Michael Hancock Players and Sugar scandal, except no one was as afraid as they are now. And much is at stake. So just open lines and run it and tell me what you think. 303-696-1971. Looking for, actually, right now we're getting names cleared up online. I'm happy to talk to you about my friends at Water Pros. And Water Pros cares about the quality of your water. You can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water with Water Pros Peter Boyles Special. This is, you get a whole water softener and a point-of-use reverse osmosis drinking water system, all fully installed. And start the process. Go to waterpros.net and sign up for your free in-home consultation. They'll come to you, they come to your home and test your water. That's the most important thing. They come to you and they test your water and answer all your questions and concerns about your water. So they get rid of forever chemicals, microplastics, hard water. Had it done. It's great. I mean, it changes the drinking water in your home. I trust these guys. My water is wonderful. Water Pros is family-owned, veteran-owned business dedicated to providing you with the best in water treatment for less than the other guys. Go to waterpros.net today. Request your free water test. They come to your home. 303-862-5554. That's 303-862-5554. Make the call. Waterpros.com is their waterpros.net or 303-862-5554 and say, I want my water tested at home for free. All right, let us begin. We go to start in the top lines. Or Jim in Littleton, you're on the show. Good morning.
Oh, good morning to you, Peter. It's always great to hear your Saturday program.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you caught up to it, but Tulsi Gabbard, concerning the 2016 election, concerning the whole Hillary Clinton, the Russian collusion. Did you see what Tulsi DNI has come out now saying? It's been referred to the Justice Department.
Tell me, because I have read it, so you tell me what you're talking about.
They had two situations where they presented where Russia did collude or where they thought it was, and then the intelligence came out and said, but what we have shows they didn't, and they had no impact at all on the 2016 election.
All right.
And when they were presenting this to the next president, which is Trump, they decided to deep six the one that showed there was no collusion going on between Russia and all that, and present their alternative data, which had no intelligence behind it to show that happened, which shows basically the deep state had an aversion to Trump and was going to do everything to sandbag his presidency, which shows, if you want to talk about where we have collusion going on, that 16 clearly shows Barack Obama, the head of it, trying to destroy our republic.
But if you go back and read the entire sordid history of the CIA or watch the FBI, none of these things that you're saying, and I agree with you, but none of these things should surprise you. The deep state, what I personally believe is the airstrike in Iran is evidence of the deep state. When the Justice Department and the FBI concluded they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures and kept a client list or was murdered, and they just shut it down. If you go back and I realize that's not what this is, but you read one morning the Denver cops shut down the investigation of the prostitution scandal of Players and Sugar. I mean, when you see real raw power with respect, you really can't be surprised.
Well, I to be honest with you, I am surprised that our president would ignore what was presented and try to go another way in order to ruin a presidency and actually impact and destroy our republic. I am shocked that Barack Obama would do that. I actually am.
Read Lyndon Johnson. Read Richard Nixon. I'm not defending Obama by any stretch, but read what they did. Read what Bush and Cheney did.
I agree with you on that. I think they should be held up on war crimes.
I do too.
I also did not realize. I believe that. I think Nixon was taken out as a result of the deep state actually wanting him no longer as a president. Ford was a much more pliable person. I believe, unfortunately, I believe Kennedy was assassinated with arms of our government. Unfortunately. And I'm not certain that RFK, as well as Martin Luther King, there wasn't some arms of our government involved with that. I don't know. I wish we would have that information.
I would not argue against you. What I think is, remember, there's a thing that lawyers say called lie on one. In other words, you go on the stand and you lie on one. Now you've lied. Lie on one. And the government has done nothing since my boyhood but tell lies. And lies that are costly lies. And not just, a fib or who broke the window, but costly lies. The whole Bush-Cheney war, the Lyndon Johnson-Richard Nixon war, these are not just lies, as Neil Sheehan said, they're bright, shining lies. And what we're watching happen, I came up with this and I said, well, how amazed would I be if Joe Biden's son Hunter was a passenger on the Lolita Express down to Little St. James? Would you be shocked? Would you be shocked?
Absolutely not.
Would you be shocked to find out that Saudi princes visited?
Absolutely not.
So
Absolutely not. Did you not hear? I've just heard about the sweetheart deals that Kushner is working with Saudi Arabia now,
Sure.
and the millions of dollars
yes.
his corporation stands to make.
So
I believe actually there's a trifecta. I think Saudi Arabia, Israel, and America work very close together.
But if you read the life of Jeffrey Epstein, when it came time for Iran-Contra, and the weapons came out of Israel, and there was an arms dealer named Khashoggi, and Adnan, I think was his first name, El Khashoggi. Jeffrey was his boy. And so that leads me to believe that the Mossad knew what they were doing. Then if anybody believes that a Marine Corps lieutenant colonel came up with all of this on his own, Oliver North, and put all of this together and did this whole deal, was a Marine Corps light colonel in the Pentagon that put Iran-Contra together. If anybody believes that on his own and by himself he did that, I got a bridge in Brooklyn. He had.
I agree. I totally agree with you, Peter. But the problem is.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You say.
I'm just. The problem is that the more that we uncover about the corruption, of our government involved with every aspect that they should not be involved with, the more when you have the electorate not trusting outcomes, that is a bad sign. That's what happens in third world countries. That's that's in essence, that's kind of what brought the Soviet Union down, because people had no trust in them anymore.
Well, they
could do it.
Yeah, the Soviet Union imploded. It didn't explode. It fell in on itself. But
there's the people that knew it was a flawed system, and it's my wife was from there, and it's the old saying, you pay like you pay us, and we'll act like we're working. No one had any investment.
We'll pretend to work, and you pretend to pay us. I'm going to jump.
Exactly.
I always love your calls, man. Thanks, brother, man. Thank you. All right. We go to Robert in Littleton. Robert, you're on a radio show. Good morning. It's a Saturday.
Good morning, brother, man.
Hey, man.
Hey, throw back real quick just to establish my case, all right? As far back as J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI had an enemies list. It was collecting intelligence and dirt on anybody they could find that they could hold over their head. And it wasn't to protect an individual or even an entity. It was just the accumulation of power.
Yes.
And the more dirt you had, the more powerful you were. And J. Edgar, obviously, between sessions of prancing around in women's underwear, he was a very, very powerful
And remember, every time a president wanted to get rid of J. Edgar Hoover, it didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. He broke out the book and said, you really want to do this?
You really want to? Jack Kennedy was a perfect example.
Absolutely. So we jump to World War II, and a guy named Bill Donovan is running the OSS.
Wild Bill.
Precursor to the CIA.
Wild
Bill. Yeah. He had a guy named John Holston.
Absolutely.
That was not one of his 12 disciples, but one of the disciples to the disciples, if you will, whose only job was to collect dirt. And he and J. Edgar hated each other. And so a lot of that dirt he was trying to collect on J. Edgar, because there was a massive power struggle going on for who was going to have the ear of FDR, or at least be given the most credence when they went before him. And then we jump forward to John Kennedy and probably Bobby Kennedy and probably MLK, as your previous caller alluded to, and so on and so forth all the way up the line. We jump forward even further to Heidi Fleiss. I'm sure you remember the Hollywood Madam.
Of course. And by the way,
Fleiss
she had
that book.
She had a book. I was going to say she had a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Heidi kept that book for one simple reason. It was not to keep track of who paid their bills on time or anything else. It was so that she had dirt if they ever popped her. And when it came time and the rubber hit the road, so to speak, the people in power at the time that chose to prosecute her made a very calculated decision that prostitution charges just were not going to be that big of a deal for the powerful people that were in the book, and B, that most of them they didn't care about anyway.
That's right.
And so they prosecuted her and they put her in prison. And her book didn't do her any good, because I don't think anybody avoided getting smeared, when it came time for her to go to prison.
If you folks remember, she was called the Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss, and she revealed politicians and celebrities among her clients, And the books had been subject of intense interest since the Epstein scandal burst into public view. And
absolutely. But how many of those people lost their offices or got blackballed from getting jobs or anything else?
I think there were people that resigned in disgrace, but I don't think the fallout wasn't what people expected. And
no, and it certainly wasn't what she expected.
Oh,
because
no,
she was
no.
using that as a protective shield for herself.
You're right. But
now I say all of this.
But can I do this real quick? Bring it to Denver. The power elite in Denver, as Mike Roberts called them, they came in and pressured everybody and saved Michael Hancock, but they weren't saving Michael Hancock. They were saving themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Michael Hancock was nothing but the guy who happened to be in the mayor's seat at the time.
Thank you.
And they knew that if they had that dirt on him, that when something came along, and there's always something going to come along,
he answers the phone.
They could go to him and say, you need to tell your DA to back off.
Yep.
Or you need to tell your police chief to back off. Or you need to give us this permit or whatever.
Sure. The city, that was it. Because the city of Denver, beginning with Pena, was run by what's called the bond daddies, and they were the private-public partnerships. No, what did that guarantee? I always said it guaranteed Michael will answer the phone.
Absolutely. And it also guaranteed that there was a whole lot of city taxpayer dollars that were going to flow into the certain pockets.
Sure.
Now, I say all of this to build the case for why we all believe that Epstein had a list. Okay?
Oh.
I have a very, very hard time believing that Epstein would not have been doing all of the filthy, disgusting, just absolutely sickening things that he was doing and facilitating other people to be able to do those things without keeping some kind of a list exactly for the same reasons. That if it ever comes time that my head's on the chopping block, you sure you really want to do this? Okay?
That's right.
And I firmly believe, with zero evidence to support this for belief, that's why he was whacked.
Oh,
I don't believe for a second he killed himself. They whacked him and shut him up.
Cyril Wecht. I became friends with Cyril Wecht. He's just a revered pathologist and happens to be in Allegheny County, and we became friends through the Ramsey investigation because he never bought the intruder theory, and he was just a grand old man.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story there.
But long story short, I read this. He did a really lengthy piece on how Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. In fact, he made the case that Jeffrey Epstein was killed. And
now isn't he the one that wrote the report that said that the hyoid bone, if I remember correctly,
there you go.
was intact?
You're absolutely right.
And when somebody hangs themselves, that's the first thing to go.
The breaks. You're absolutely right. And
so now we jump to. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
No, you say. Go ahead.
Now we jump to where is the list, and this is the big problem I have.
Remember, I got a minute to the break. I got a minute.
Okay, the list was probably only viewed by a small handful of people who had access to it, right? What names were on that list, and who had access to that list and the ability to alter that list, and what has been done with it since, to either add names to it that they want to crucify or remove names from it that they want to protect.
Agreed again. But that's why.
That's all I got.
No, I think this is headed for a Watergate. You watch. And if we got off-year elections coming, if the Dems do well, you can almost guarantee it. I love your call as well.
Yeah.
Great call. Thanks, man. Everybody, hang on. 710 KNUS. George Brauchler will join us and talk about this outcome of the Dominion voting systems and our company, Salem Broadcasting, and what happened because of the on-airs. Stay here. Right back.
Your 710 5-day forecast today and Sunday. We're going to have sunshine, which will lead to a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms thanks to a weak monsoon. Weekend highs lower to mid-90s with lows in the mid-60s. Into the work week, more isolated storm activity confined to the foothills. Lots of sun on the plains. Highs continue to be hot in the mid-90s with lows upper 60s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Dawn Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Saturday morning, everyone, the 19th of July, hot,
Your
92,
710
94
5-day
tomorrow,
forecast today is
95 on Monday. Standing by for George Brauchler. So we'll take Jim in Denver. Jim, if I dump you, I got to dump you for the guests. So good morning. Have at it.
No sweat, Uncle Pete. So I've always had a problem with people telling me and having to remind me that they're conservatives because I just don't believe it. But one of the major funders of our fantastic president right now is an information gathering billionaire who in the past has said that he could pay half of the American population to go out and fight the other half of the American population.
I saw that, yeah.
And you know what? I think Team Red and Team Blue needs one another in order to keep us verbally at each other's throats. But when you have a billionaire who is now in bed with multiple agencies and the Defense Department using government taxes to gather information, data on every single American, telling you...
Well, don't you think, in fairness, don't you think that the government knows or can know as quickly as they want anything about you or anything about me?
Oh, certainly. I mean, Facebook came out the exact same day they shut down another government spy program.
Sure, but again, going back to Richard Nixon and Watergate, and Lyndon Johnson did it too. They used the CIA to spy on the American people. It is not in their charter, but they were more than willing to do it, and they did it.
Israel's been involved in the weapons of mass destruction conversation. They actually went to the UN before Colin Powell did, and they've been involved in all of this. And to think that Epstein is not an asset of the Israeli information process with everybody he's been tied to is just brain dead.
But don't you think he admitted, he had said at one time that he was a CIA asset. He said that, and there's every reason to believe it when you go back to see his role in Iran-Contra. And he had Adnan El-Khashoggi, the arms dealer, and and of course, again, anybody that believes that Oliver North put all of that together on his own.
No, it was Israel. It shouldn't be called Iran-Contra. It should be called Israel-Iran-Contra.
Well, what I think it was Herbert Walker Bush ran the CIA, and he had made all the steps along the way. He was vice president during that moment of Iran-Contra. You could see. Don't think. Listen, I got Brauchler.
All right, man. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he has been such a tremendous friend through everything, thick and thin. George Brauchler, now he's the DA, and he promised us a few minutes this morning to try to explain the outcome of a lawsuit. Hey, Coach, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show for a quick amount of time.
Yeah, Pete, thanks for having me on. I'm sorry that this week was just so crazy and coordinating. It just was nuts.
It's tough having your job. You think the talk show host was tough. District attorney's got to be way. Which one's harder?
Well, just the hours, as you know, for the morning are ridiculous. I think once you become accustomed to the morning, it's not as hard, but I never did get accustomed to it. I mean, 2 years of getting up at 3:30 a.m., I never felt like I found my footing, whereas I think for you, it became the natural, the norm. But other than that, the DA stuff is just new and different in a different kind of way. You just don't know where you're going to ask to go and what you're going to be asked to do. Like for instance, this morning, sounds like there's 5 people shot in Castle Rock right now. So we're dealing with that. Yeah.
Oh my God. I would just want you to attempt to explain the settlement. It comes down in statements from Salem Media of Colorado, and the settlement involves the plaintiff Eric Coomer and of course Randy Corporon, and no one ever got deposed. There was never a trial. What does settlement for? Well, you take it over. You explain to the audience what the outcome of this really means.
I think it's hard to discern, and they do that a little bit deliberately. I mean, settlements are usually an agreement between the parties to avoid more formal litigation by agreeing to either give something to somebody else or you exchange something. And you usually end up saying, well, look, let's just agree, too, that we're going to keep confidential the terms of the settlement and, why we did it. And that's usually non-disparagement agreement. All that stuff you usually bake into that. So when I read the settlement between Dominion and Randy and read that each side is just going to pay its own costs and legal fees, my thought was, well, Dominion's won everything that it's wanted so far. And my guess is they took a look at Randy's situation and thought, this just isn't worth it, right? Like, we could go and win, but we're going to spend so much more than we're ever going to achieve in the courtroom, whether it's money or some sort of positive PR. Like, he's a small fish. He's a small fish when you compare it to some of the other networks and the other people they've gone after. So my presumption was, and that's all it is a presumption.
I understand. Is
that they said, hey, look, you pay your fees, we'll pay ours. It's like showing up for a duel at sunrise, and each side just lowered their guns and walked away. That's what it strikes me as.
What about Salem? Did Salem cover everybody's expenses? Because Salem issues a blanket apology. What do you do with the Salem part of this lawsuit?
Yeah, that's a tougher one. I mean, Metaxas is obviously bigger than Randy by a bunch, and I could see them trying to bake in a way to settle everything through just them. But that's a great question. I mean, Randy may not even be in a position to be able to talk about it, but he'd be the best one to know for that. You told me that Salem pulled down their apology.
Yep.
That's really interesting to me.
Well,
because, as you know, we were on the radio just a few weeks ago talking about Kyle Clark's story based on that apology.
That's
so
right.
I presume he's going to do another one.
Well,
but I'm kidding.
They paid. They first up when Dinesh D'Souza and that ridiculous 2,000 mules, and there's then they pay on that, and they would stop, and then they issue this apology. But you're right, now it doesn't exist anymore. And they don't talk to me, and I'm surprised. But then they separately they pay off on Eric Metaxas, and that's Coomer's 2020 defamation suit against him. And so you got Salem Metaxas, then you got Salem 710K and US. And as I've said before, a lot of the generation of lies. In election denial came out of the seat I'm sitting in with the microphone in front of me. And so they got 2 more lawsuits to go, I think, do they not?
There are a couple still hanging out there. I'll be interested to see how they resolve, because I think some of their analysis also has to be, do we amplify this voice by putting them out there? Do we give them more notoriety and more fame, even in whatever corner of the political universe they operate in, than we do right now? Honestly, and I texted this to you, it just feels like a business decision. Like, hey, we've won all the things we needed to win. We don't need to go after these guys.
But that stuff those stories told here become part of Rudolph Giuliani and become part of Sidney Powell, and they're repeated by the Trump campaign. Donald Trump repeated those things. But Coomer files a lawsuit against Trump, and I think in 2020, and then comes here in 21. Remember Mike Lindell. And now, did they look at Lindell? I talked to somebody that I really respect about this. They said they got $2.3 million from Lindell. And do attorneys or law firms look at somebody and say, "Hey, the guy's tap"? I mean, if you decided to sue Randy for a whole lot of money, I mean, I don't know what Randy's worth, and it's none of my business, but I'm sure it's not the kind of money that Lindell allegedly once had. Does that hold up anywhere, George?
Of course. I mean, in this, the 2 things that they can accomplish are, 1, vindication of Coomer's name, which has to be a big part of this. Right. And 2 is the punitive punishment that comes with it. Randy may very well, there may have been an analysis by Salem that Metaxas and Randy are going to have to be indemnified by Salem for whatever happens. So that's why Salem might pay out is, hey, look, we know we're exposed here. And so they get together with Randy and his people and say, listen, if we just write the check for you so you don't have to say I'm giving them money,
that's what
would you just go away?
That's
and
what I think.
That, again, that's just a pure business decision.
That's what I think happened. That's what a number of people that I respect believe happened, that there was never, remember, where everybody's going to get deposed and all of those things were going to happen. And it never happened, especially after people who said they couldn't wait to get into court. They couldn't wait to be in the box and tell the truth and show their evidence and turn their cards over. And now it's coming up for this next guy is coming up, the Altman character, and I think Randy's his lawyer.
Yeah, that'll be interesting too. I'm still waiting to see any one of these things go in some fashion where the quote unquote evidence is revealed that makes you and me look like idiots.
Yeah,
but I just haven't seen it yet.
It's not going to happen, boss. It's not going to. They don't have it. If they had it, you'd have seen it. Rupert.
I think that's probably true.
And so now, with Altman, but again, what happened out of here? This is the epicenter, and I know it, and I had, like I said in my text to you, 5.5 years of this, and now I don't know. I don't know. There's 2 more trials. I think there's 2 more trials left that I will be amazed if there's ever somebody ever goes into court. But Altman apparently has said he can't wait to testify. We'll see. We'll see if he does.
Well, and I've told Joe this over the years as well. He'll ping me from time to time and try to say, hey, if you could only see this, or hey, I wish you would consider this. And I've told him the same thing you've said on the radio, but the same thing I said for years, and that is I am completely open to credible evidence on this issue, 100% open to doing it. And I've reconsidered my position on other things before based on new evidence. I'm like, you bring it forward and it's credible, and you got my attention. But if all that's going to happen is you're going to say, hey, look, here's some smoke, and I can tell you not only where the smoke comes from, but what started the fire, just from the smoke. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
And the experience I had with John Eastman, and I got set up to interview Eastman, and I was, take him on, he'll show you. And I said, fine, I want to see the evidence. And Eastman's evidence was signed affidavits. And I had made that wise guy remark that I would sign an affidavit for Professor Eastman that I saw Bigfoot in my driveway. And he said what he said, and he hung up on me because I had him. Now, affidavits of I saw Randy do this, or I saw George, or I saw Peter, that means nothing in court. And so
that's why the affidavit is usually just a step towards something. It is never the something, because it has to be tested through cross-examination and other evidence.
It's not evidence. It's I made this up and signed it, or I say it and I signed it. And he knew. Eastman knew at that point that I knew that I was on to him. He didn't want to go any further. And so he did what he did, which was the trigger for everything that happened to me and my family was. And, I've made a running gag, and I think I remember when Kyle Clark hangs it on you. I mean, that was so stupid, because you knew about it.
It did sort of make me feel good in this way. If they had anything more damning, it would have shown up there. They had nothing.
Yeah, well.
They just had nothing.
But what's, and I've made a running joke that I'm waiting for these people who did what they did for the last 5.5 years and said the things that they said and sent the unsigned text messages and the rest of that. I've waited for one of them to call up and say, hey, Pete, I'm sorry. I was wrong. After all of these people roll over and find out, and, the Kraken rolls and Giuliani rolls, and who's left? Nobody.
Look, in a generation or so, Pete, this will just be a footnote in history about this period of time.
Of course.
It's just not going to be more than that. If it had turned into something, if it had turned into what they thought it was, it would be history changing, but it just isn't there. I keep waiting for the evidence, and it just never shows up.
It's case closed at this point, but we'll see what happens. So, and when Metaxas, they paid off on Metaxas too, whose picture's on the wall outside the door, as you well know. He was
yeah.
beloved.
Seen it many times.
He's done, and also D'Souza. They paid off on D'Souza. There's somebody in the background. You're having a family get-together. Listen, get out of here.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I'm standing here right in front of a, dare I say it, I'm standing in front of a berry blends. And there's a woman with her little kids out here drinking some stuff. Sorry about that.
No. No, I thought you were like Family Day or something.
No.
Go through it. How's the job going? One of those.
It's good. Every day is different. It is the opposite of boredom, because you just never know what you're going to walk into. You can't tell a thing from the calendar because you think you have this 4-hour open space. That's fake. It always ends up being filled with, a bunch of other stuff. And then if you have a bunch of stuff scheduled, invariably someone calls and moves something, or something happens, or you wake up this morning and you get the, hey boss, we got a bunch of people shot in Castle Rock. And you're like, on this beautiful Saturday, what in the hell is going on? So it's a great job.
I got the music. Thanks, George. I know
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Be
Pete.
safe. Open lines where we continue. Here we go, Saturday morning, July 19th, 2025, 710 KNUS 92. The high today, 94 Sunday, and Monday, 95 degrees. For the first time since we started the show, lines are wide open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. The Wall Street Journal reports late on Thursday night, adding new scrutiny to President Donald Trump's relationship with the late sex offender, as they now call him, Jeffrey Epstein. And there's this letter bearing Trump's name, including a lewd outline of a naked woman, and this imagined conversation between Trump and Epstein. And according to the Journal, and again, it's the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's paper, some kind of secret knowledge about more to life than having everything. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Trump concludes in this imagined conversation, according to the Journal. The president has denied he wrote the letter, and on Friday he filed a libel lawsuit against the publisher of the Wall Street Journal and the reporters who wrote the story, saying it's not me, this is fake, it's fake Wall Street Journal. Now, the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch. They've run up against this before, and they were the first to pay off big on the lies about Donald Trump having the election stolen from him. And again, much of that came from here. And when the Journal settled for some $787 million, do you think that they haven't vetted this? What do you think of what we're watching and what's going on? And Jeffrey Epstein, the tapes, describing himself as Donald Trump's closest friend, claiming intimate knowledge of the proclivities for sex, including jobbing behind the back of his best friends, that he wanted to make love to his best friends' wives, and apparently did. 303-696-1971. It's David Ellis time. You've heard me for so many years. I think I've represented David for, 23 years. Take your valuables to David Ellis Jewelers and get a fortune in cash and secure an appraisal from David for all the valuables that you have tucked away in your home. And it's still true. And let me share the reasons to see David, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, or silver tea set. You see David Ellis for all the most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, just the right item, just the right price, special people, that what means the most to you. An antique watch, emerald pennants and gold necklaces, or diamond rings. Trusted Jewelers been buying precious metals and antiques in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces that your loved ones will treasure. See my guy, David Ellis Jewelers. See for yourself. Look for the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. He's there now. He's there 6 days a week. Explore David Ellis, ELLIS, DavidEllisJewelry.com, or call David, 303-322-8779, 303-322-8779. Tell David I sent you. But I'm telling you, if you want the great deal and you want to sell something even, see David today. All right, there's nobody on the phones, 303-696-1971. If you were getting a busy signal or you didn't get through, pick up the phone. You can jump in right now. Jeffrey Epstein now is describing himself as Donald Trump's closest friend, claiming that he's a convicted pedophile, and I do believe that he was murdered. And he even boasted of his closeness to Trump and Donald Trump's now wife. And he said the first time that Donald slept with her was on my plane, dubbed, of course, the Lolita Express. Epstein spoke at length about Trump with this guy, Michael Wolff, and it was 2 years before he's found dead in his cell. And Wolff was researching this bombshell bestseller, Fire and Fury. I have to read that. That's one of the books in the scandal. The recordings, they say, cast more light on Donald Trump's long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and again add to the debate over the character of Donald Trump, especially his attitudes and conduct towards women. Days before the election, the tapes say this is what the New York Times is saying, the Wall Street Journal is saying it. The tapes say Epstein's version of the relationship between the two former friends. They took a very different path, one towards infamy, prison, and suicide, the other towards power, the Oval Office, and his own criminal convictions. But that's the porn star that's paying off Stormy Daniels. Trump's camp refers to the tapes as false smears and, interesting enough, election interference. The tapes offer unusual insight into the friendship of these guys. I guess they fell out over trying to buy a piece of property in Miami on the water. Trump was these are things Epstein's saying. A serial cheat in his marriages and loved to F the wives of his best friends. And they share the tape now, and what happens? And is it, does this thing end in a Watergate series of hearings? If the midterms don't go well, if the Democrats get their hands on the reins, you can almost count on it. All right, 303-696-1971. To the wall, there's no doubt in my mind that Trump's involved in all of this. After all, those big Democratic supporters hung out in the same crowd in those days. Well, absolutely. I clearly believe that you could probably see Hunter Biden. All right, we start with Jim in Denver. We have one line open. Jim, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Listen, I'd say it's very, very clear. Epstein acted as a pimp. Donald Trump acted as the John on the Lolita Express. And even the government deemed Melania as a genius. I think those words right there all reflect the situation that's going on.
How does it end?
It ends with MAGA pulling their heads out of their backsides when the billionaires purchase all their family properties and farms and liquidate them and move people into cities that are more and more compact than ever before.
What do you do with these recordings that now I've obviously not heard them, but people have heard them and they're writing about what was said, and remember now Donald Trump is suing, but he's suing a guy that paid off a lot of money, Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah. You know what? If this political perversion that we have going on with our nation doesn't change to start representing the people that think they matter to our leaders, I might as well just rename the GOP the Guardians of the Pedophiles. Donald Trump is electing Democrats again. He did it before. The dead guy, Biden, would have never been our president if it wasn't for Donald Trump and his honesty or lies or, information is out there to manipulate people's minds.
If in this pending election cycle, if they lose control of the House and the Senate, and this is continuing, you could see a Watergate series. And that's why I think Bondi stays there, because John Dean is the linchpin in what happens to Nixon. And I don't know. Bongino is quiet. There's not been a word out of Bongino all week. He's gone dark. Same is true with Cash Patel. He doesn't say anything. That leads me to believe that something's brewing.
Those two talk show hosts, or whatever you call them on the internet, those two people were lying about the Epstein files for years.
Oh.
Now they're in government, and they were making money off of lying for the Epstein files.
Well, they said and
now they're in government, and they might be lying again. We all know that they work for money, and that's it.
I got to cut it off. We're going to take a pause, 7:10. KNUS, Denver's talk station. Stay here. It is, and good morning, everyone. It's Saturday morning, the 19th of July, 2025. I'm Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. The weather, 92 will be the high today, 94 Sunday, 95 Monday, 94 Tuesday. So it's hot, hot, hot. We have a stop right now on open lines. We will continue after our guest. I have been through so much of this, and he has gone through it as well. And Dick Wadhams is with us. And this week, the company that I work for, Salem Broadcasting, has started to issue apologies. Salem Media of Colorado, a one-time talk show host here. And the case is, of course, this 2020 election being stolen from Donald Trump. Dick, good morning. Thanks for coming back up. We were lucky enough. We got Brauchler in to try and explain it. I have talked to, 4 or 5 attorneys. This is a very difficult decision to totally understand. Thanks for doing the show. Good morning and welcome back.
Good morning, Pete. Good to be with you again.
So how do you see this? The apology that has now been taken down, the plaintiff, of course, Eric Coomer, the defendant, Salem Media, and they went after one talk show host. And what was the outcome of this? What does it mean? And did money exchange hands?
Well, I heard your interview with Brauchler, and I thought George was probably correct in his analysis of what happened. I don't know if there was money involved in terms of settlement or in terms of the disposition of this case. But one thing's clear to me is that Eric Coomer and Dominion voting systems have not lost a case up and down all these court cases that have come up. And I think I liked what George said about they might have decided it was just it just wasn't worth it to pursue the Salem thing and that talk show host any further. Even if that apology came down, Pete, I mean, it is in the public record, and there's no repudiation of the apology. But I think that Salem Broadcasting, which I think has done some wonderful things, and across the country with its stations, it's unfortunate to me that it found itself in this position with these what I think was very irresponsible broadcasting on the part of some of their hosts, and also, Pete, there's a political equation to this too. Especially here in Colorado, one of the reasons why the Republican Party in Colorado has become so irrelevant in so many ways is that the party just looks like a bunch of nuts at times when you've got these high-profile so-called leaders still contending that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from Donald Trump. And until that stops, including by the president himself, by the way, it's just going to be a stain on Republican candidates here in Colorado that won't go away until then. And the election was not stolen. It was not stolen here in Colorado. It wasn't stolen nationally. And as George says, and you've said many times, if it was stolen, show us the proof. Well, there is none because it didn't happen. And so I think this is just the latest situation in this whole saga of that we've been going through since the 2020 election.
Yeah, I mean, since the 2020 presidential, And what's happened to so many different people that they get jacketed by these people for being, for just simply telling the truth. And inside this radio station, and again, a lot of people are no longer here. This radio station took some sincere hits. The management team is now gone. The on-airs are gone. Dominion, I wonder if they, like Metaxas was part of this, and what's the guy that did 2,000 Mules or whatever, that lousy Dinesh D'Souza, and they had to indemnify all of them. And remember, there was another guy that his name is Mark Andrews. I read about him, and he sued over the movie 2,000 Mules, and Salem had to again come back and say the movie wasn't true. And now Salem is suing their rider, their insurance rider. It's called Atlantic Insurance, and Atlantic Insurance was the everybody has a company that every media outlet has an insurance a rider that is there to protect them. I know, and it pays for defamation, and so this fellow Andrews sues because of what D'Souza did to him, and the insurance company wouldn't cover it. And so now Salem is suing the insurance company, and I wonder if the same thing's taking place where a decision was made that they were covering up for, in terms of paying off for the actions of these other people. And George says that's conceivable too.
Yeah. It just strikes me, none of these people who made all those claims since 2020 have won in court. They've all lost, or they're about to lose. I mean, because none of it is true. All the lies they told, all the claims they made, none of it was true. And so, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
And what they did to Coomer and his family, and what happened here, is unforgivable. And when my family was included in their threats. So, I don't know. And now it's come to this, and it's not quite over. There's two more. I think there's two more lawsuits to go. I think Altman has one, and I think Randy's his lawyer, and then I think the Gateway Pundit is being sued, and I don't know who the lawyer is on that. But when Fox News paid $787.5 million to Dominion, they all knew at that point. But remember, they all couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to be deposed. They couldn't wait to be in court. And of course, Altman ran out of his deposition, and the rest of us were never deposed, and there was never a trial.
Right.
They stopped it. They stopped it, and whatever they did either paid off or whatever happened, and that was that.
And of course, the other saga that has happened since 2020 here in Colorado was the whole Tina Peters scandal in Mesa County. And of course, there was a huge effort to defend Tina Peters and to claim she was right and that she was being wronged by the judicial system. And of course, some of that's still going on.
Sure.
This effort to get her released from prison.
I'll read you a text. This is legitimate. It came in. It's going to be hilarious when Salem gets sued because Peter Boyles keeps covering up the obvious election fraud that's going to be proven shortly.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah. No.
Shortly, huh?
Yeah.
There have been 5 years.
Oh no! It hasn't been a lot of fun, and now here we come to this moment where all the brave talk gets thrown out. And we're real quick. Dick Wadhams is here. What's your take on Epstein? What's going to happen? I was going to ask you that.
Well, it is interesting to see the MAGA coalition starting to kind of turn on President Trump. That's been a fascinating thing to watch. And I know he ordered the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to ask the courts to release the grand jury testimony. But from what I read, and I'm no lawyer, but from what I read, there's a good chance, first of all, it'll take time for the courts to respond to this request. Second of all, even if they do it, it might not reveal any new information. So to me, this is just going to continue to fester. And I don't know how President Trump gets ahead of it.
I don't either.
Because these folks are just convinced that of this cover-up, and maybe there was, I don't know, but it strikes me that if there was something there, Trump would have released it, and that he and the Attorney General, for whatever reason, I don't know, I cannot figure it out. But from just a cold political standpoint, Pete, there's a serious problem within MAGA world right now, and their support for Trump. They're not going to walk away from him. But I think there's some real doubt being raised right now.
It really reminds me, although it's only in terms of the modeling of Watergate and all the early denials and nobody did this and nobody did that, and incrementally, step by step, inch by inch, it got to Richard Nixon. And I think Bondi stays because she conceivably could be the John Dean. But it's interesting. Bongino has gone dark, hasn't said a word. Last Saturday we were doing a radio show. He was threatening to quit.
Yeah.
And now he's just simply gone dark. Kash Patal's gone dark. Now the Wall Street Journal does this piece, and also another agency has done it. Another media outlet has done it, about the Jeffrey Epstein tapes. And that's, one more step. I don't know how Donald Trump blunts it. I really don't. And like I said, we had Mike Roberts on early this morning talking about Players and Sugar and Jeffrey Epstein, and the similarities were striking. So they were able to kill the story here. Can they kill the story nationwide or worldwide? Don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Because I think the MAGA base is not going to walk away from this. So I don't know how the president handles this. It's not going to go away. I think he thinks he can get it to go away, but I don't know how he does. So we'll see.
One more message. Yeah, Pete, you're a guy. Like, I didn't vote for Biden. Your guy won in 2020. How'd that work out? Here's the interesting thing about the truth, and it is interesting to watch all of this and to listen to the attorneys that were able to read some of it, and especially when they got into the Fox News in New York, and they made those statements that, look, the truth is important, and so. My guy won 2020. No, it wasn't my guy. But but these people attempted to destroy the constitutional, the entire existence of why this country works. They tried to overthrow it. And now they act like, I don't know how they act.
Yeah.
But.
Wow.
All right, here one. Hey, Pete, tell your boy Dick that the Republican Party isn't turning on President Trump. They just disagree and demand accountability. President Trump listened. That's the way the government is supposed to work. So.
That's nice.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Dick, thanks. We'll talk.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you. Dick Wadhams, everyone. It is 11:14. We have time to go back to the calls? Okay. 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. This is Don. Don, you waited. Good morning. You're on the show. Thank you.
Good morning, Uncle Pete. How are you today?
My boy. I'm actually good. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to want to put in my 4 cents about this ongoing circus called the Epstein mess, I call it. I'm one of these people that looks at this from maybe a different perspective than most people. But I want to put a thesis to you, and I want to get your feedback on what you think of it. I believe if you're powerful enough to have somebody murdered in jail, you're powerful enough to have certain stuff disappear.
Sure.
Now, Alan Dershowitz says he saw something. I think was it his address book, or he saw
He changed his tune.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Now he says now he's going. He came out and he said that he had seen it all. And remember, he allegedly was accused, and then the woman recanted, and he wrote a book about it and claimed that he saw the client list. Now he says whatever he says now. So what's that question that lawyers ask? Do you lying now or are you lying then? You know, when were you telling the truth?
Or maybe he thought he was seeing the client list and it was just his address book.
Well, I go back and I read, one day I read all the stuff on the Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss and the little black book that she had, and that revealed politicians and celebrities among her clients. And it actually didn't mean squat. It was like, yeah, she went to jail. I mean, so there have been but do you believe the book? Do you believe the book or the books exist?
I believe something. I believe his address book exists, but then again, not everybody in his address book is going to be guilty of statutory rape.
Oh, no.
Guilty of bad judgment? Yeah, but not statutory rape. I would point toward the smoking gun is all this video they allegedly have.
Mm-hmm.
Who's on those?
Well, remember the guy, and I don't know his name. I can get Adam to look it up. He's the guy that claimed he was the house manager, and won somebody. Look that up. But that guy, he said that he had cameras in every room. And,
I've heard it from several people.
And he had the villa in Palm Beach, and he testified that the cameras were commonly used by Maxwell and others, and they had visits from these young girls and these children actually, and that's when this guy said they had cameras in bathrooms.
Yeah, so he's got to be filming something. So where's the video?
Well, of course, that's the I talked to this morning. We were talking to Mike Roberts, and I told that story of meeting Chris Romer at that summer party years later, and he's telling me about cameras. Cameras in Players and Sugar. And I thought to myself, well, of course. Why wouldn't you have cameras, right?
Of course, yeah. But Players and Sugar, that's what really opened my eyes is, how down and dirty that went down.
It just got shut down, and of course, I think that's kind of. The Denver PD closed the investigation, and when they did, Scotty Ewing got 6 months house arrest. I'd been to his house; it was pretty nice, and he had a swimming pool.
It was.
He had a swimming pool, He had his girlfriend, and give me 6 months, right? And Brenda Stewart, the woman that he sold Players to, she got 6 months, and she got charged with money laundering and intimidation and all. I read the charges. She got 6 months house arrest. So they don't want the powers that be did not want to screw with either one of them.
They want to go around juggling around sticks of dynamite.
No, of course. And so the address book with Epstein's contacts, and they're I'm told, and you go back and read, they had small blue and black books where witnesses say he kept the names of the girls who gave him massages and who was involved in any of this. And remember, Maxwell has a sex trafficking trial coming, and she takes the fall on that. I got to pull the pin. Thank you, man. Okay. All right, we come back. We have two lines open, 303-696-1971. It's Saturday at 710 KNUS. It's a Saturday, July 19, 2025. 92 the high, 94 Sunday, 95 on Monday. What are your thoughts on all of this? Epstein, Trump, who's involved, the island, witnesses, whose names are involved. We talked early this morning about Players and Sugar with Mike Roberts and the comparison analysis. Brauchler was with us on the Salem settlement, Dick Wadhams. So 303-696-1971. There are two lines open. We go to Pete in Palmer Lake. Hey, Pete, thanks for calling the show. Good morning.
Morning, Pete. How are you?
Brother, man, I'm good.
Good. Hey, Pete, something just doesn't make sense to me in all of this. I think Trump is way too smart to get himself caught up in this, and that this may be a ruse altogether. If you believe what he has said over the last 10, 15 years, that there's a deep state, a swamp, then there's only two ways you can look at this. Either he's a part of it, which I don't think he is, because he is paid dearly politically, financially, personally, and just running for the president, being president. I tend to think what's happening here is a game theory, is a giant chess match where I can't see him being on the list because I think the Dems would have used that to destroy him. They used every other means to destroy him, and if he was on that list, how do you get him from stop running in the first place? Well, you use it, you leak it.
Yeah, there's two. I have two responses, and one is what I learned about something like this with Players and Sugar. There was everybody. I mean, I say that every powerful character, with I'm sure many exceptions when I say that, who appeared on Players and Sugar's list. Democrats, Republicans, this guy, that guy, and his mother. And releasing would have been everybody's in the jackpot. I think and by the way, we can ask this in open lines, do you think Trump's on the list? But part of it is, like, I would not be, or would you be shocked if you saw Hunter Biden on the list? No.
Well, I think what we got to look at is if you want to take the deep state down, and you have that list, which Trump automatically would have, I believe, because he said so. Bondi has said so. Patel has said so. Then what you can do is you can use the people that are on the list as leverage. You can say, listen,
sure, of course.
I will destroy you, or you're going to start telling me what I need to know. And that's a way to destroy the deep state. Or it could be. Again, this is theory. This is just conjecture. But I think there's just way more at play here. And what I think is going to happen is things are going to start unraveling very quickly here, because you do have midterms coming up. And Trump has got to know that if he doesn't change the dynamic now, then he and his family will forever be on a list. They'll try to destroy him. They'll try to end the Trump dynasty. They'll try to end everything about. Hell, they tried to kill him.
No,
so
listen,
I think he understands.
I'm telling you that's why this puzzle, if we can use that word, sits in front of him right now. He's the only one that can solve the puzzle, and who's there, who's not there, what they did, what they didn't do, who Epstein was. I mean, Epstein himself remains a mystery. I've read a book about Epstein. I've read about Epstein. I don't know who Epstein was, and I ask you, do you know who Epstein was and what all he was involved in? Because I don't.
Well, I think you can make some inferences that he is a man that made money from blackmailing people.
No, he made a lot of money. He didn't blackmail people. That wasn't Epstein. He was, first of all, he's brilliant. He can do math. He's ruthless. When I read Iran-Contra, and Adnan El-Khashoggi, the arms dealer, that's his boy. And he helps Khashoggi do that. And that begs that question, do you really think that a Marine lieutenant colonel was behind all of that Iran-Contra? And the answer is, of course not. That was more of the deep state or the CIA operatives or whomever it was. But Epstein admitted that he was a CIA operative, he was involved. I think he was involved with Mossad, the Israelis. Who knows what he did? I'd always believed that his Saudi passport was legit, and I read just 2 nights ago that he had a Saudi passport that was a counterfeit passport. So I don't know what's the truth. And I'm guys like that. And we need to know, what he did to little girls is so despicable. But I'd rather have him alive today, sitting in a box, testifying to who his clients were and what they were doing.
But you have the next best thing. Maxwell is still alive.
Yes, she is.
And if you want to change the dynamic of politics in this country moving forward, this is the greatest opportunity we've seen in our lifetime.
I don't disagree.
If you want to take down an establishment, an elite system, this is his opportunity. So let's see who he is, because I think that this entire thing is way more than just political theater and people trying to protect themselves.
Absolutely. Epstein himself.
This is an all. Well, they're playing one hand right now, and it's all in for both sides. And I tend to believe what you're seeing with Tulsi Gabbard, what she just did, made referrals for the Justice Department on to include a former president. I think this is all related.
Watch these guys. I'm on your side. I think there's a connection, this is how bizarre, between the stuff Diddy was pulling and Epstein. They all...
Of course.
And remember, they threw those parties in the Trump Towers, or they threw them at Epstein's house, or that one he got from the guy that, Victoria's Secret. The guy gave him a house. Why?
Well, do you think Trump is involved with Epstein? Because from what I've read...
Clearly knew him.
Oh, okay. He knew him, but I also read that Trump was one of the only ones that was cooperative with the first FBI investigation into Epstein. That they had a huge falling out down at Mar-a-Lago.
They fell out over who was going to get a property, is what I've read. And this is all recent. The Wall Street Journal now has this President Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and they allegedly have these tapes and letters. And I'll read this to you. A letter bearing Trump's name included a lewd outline of a naked woman, an imagined conversation between Trump and Epstein, according to the Journal.
And I think Trump has already denied that, correct?
Yeah, that's right. He sued. But he's suing Rupert Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch paid off all that money to Dominion because they had gone through the whole Trump lies the first time. So Donald Trump now said, it's not me, it's a fake thing, it's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life, so there's a picture now in Drudge this morning of a tree and money and everything written. The picture is from Donald Trump. To me, this really runs, at this point, some parallels to the early parts of Watergate. And I don't have an answer. Anybody that tells you conclusively one thing or another, I think is wrong.
Oh, I agree. I just think this is the opportunity that a lot of Americans, and if you want to see the left and right come together, you expose all these.
Boy, you're good.
You know what?
Good call. Palmer Lake's one of my favorite places to ride a motorcycle to, by the way.
It's heaven, isn't it?
Oh, that's it. O'Malley's.
Oh, I can see it from my front porch.
Can you really? Well, then I know where you live.
Yeah.
Then I know where you live. That's a wonderful place. Good for you.
Should I be worried?
Not at all.
Take care, Pete.
Thank you, too. I got to read this to you, too. Remember, I have 4 hours a day. on this radio show, 4 hours a week. Peter, as always, you never have discussions on the radical left. But then we have a communist in here the other day on the show. It's always Trump and Fox News. Actually, Fox News is not involved in this at all. Most people want to hear both sides. Hey, lady, all you got to do is turn this radio station on Monday through Friday from midnight to midnight. If Trump's name was on the list, they would have told us. Instead, they took him to court how many times? This woman in Highlands Ranch. I'm here 4 hours on a Saturday, and I want to do the show I want to do. And if you want the other stuff, well, how can you can't miss. I mean, this radio station is on your side. All right, we go back to the phone. We go to Francis in Aurora. Hey, Francis, you're on the show. Good morning.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, man.
I think that it'd be interesting to see the settlement agreement between CAN-US and everybody, because I'm sure it's got confidentiality and liquidated damages clauses all over it. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if some of the personalities involved would blab or disparage or do whatever and end up stepping on those clauses and end up owing more money, because it's just the personalities involved. I think that would easily happen. But I don't know. That's just an aside. But I kind of, this Trump Epstein problem, it's interesting how it's kind of fractured MAGA a little bit, because you truly have cult members who think that everything and anything that is ever negative about Trump can't be true ever. And you know, then you have others who just want full disclosure and will take whatever is out there. I don't, does anybody, when I read what the Wall Street Journal published, I kind of felt like, is that all? Like, does that, I mean, this is the guy who ran a beauty pageant as a reporter's Billy Bush, that he grabs women's genitals.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we don't, is there anything, this is the guy who got spanked by Stormy Daniels using a magazine with his picture on it.
I know.
I mean, what, you know, there's no level of debasement that would surprise me about Trump. I really don't. So this seems to me to be kind of weak tea, really. But do I think it's true? Of course it is. I mean, I don't think it's a lie. All these other stories are coming out about how Trump even sells some of these goofy little doodles that he does, and you know, so pictures of a naked woman and some innuendo dialogue. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, I'm sure it's real, and I'm sure Trump will try to sue to try to back Murdoch down, and it's all phony baloney. I don't think there's. I mean,
Rupert took gas before, and for $787 million for backing that play, and he was they were actually the first, and Salem was just the last one to do it, or there's more to come. But so the Journal reports about this new scrutiny to Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and the Journal reports that Maxwell actually asked Trump and many others to submit letters for an album for Epstein's 50th birthday, and the letter bearing Trump's name, and again I'm reading this to you, includes a lewd outline of a naked woman and a conversation between Trump and Epstein. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. In the conversation, the two men reflect on how they share some of the secret knowledge about there's more to life than having everything. Happy birthday. It says, may every day be another wonderful secret. And Trump concludes this conversation according to the Journal. Now, right away, Donald Trump denies it, files a major libel lawsuit against the publisher of the Journal and the reporters who wrote the story. Now, this is the kind of thing, instead of letting it go, you know, you come back that strong.
Yeah, instead of letting it go, he's now put more of a magnifying glass on it, which is a stupid move on his part.
I do too.
And you know, here's what, you know, would honestly, I don't have a whole lot of use for Trump. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have ever voted for Biden with a gun to my head because he was so clearly out to lunch. But I would gain some level of respect for the guy if he came out, and I think just this would be truthful, I think. if he came out and said, you know what the Wall Street Journal published is something I did, is a thing that was put together by, Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's 50th birthday. I learned more about Epstein as time went on. I did about him. I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. I'm a different person than I was then. And obviously, because I've already disclosed and others have disclosed some of my, terrible moments. And if you want to put this in the category of terrible moment, but look at me now, I accept that. I think that would be a wonderful way to get around this. I definitely think there's more to this whole Epstein thing than meets the eye, and I definitely want more disclosure. But for Trump's part in it, unless he's, getting busy with underage women, which I think would be the ultimate, everybody in MAGA would have to turn away from him at that point, even the cult members. Barring something like that, they're not going to disavow Trump. It's not going to happen.
We got a break.
I don't think that's going to show up.
Music's here. Coming back, everyone. 710 KNUS. Good morning again, everyone. Saturday, July the 19th, 2025, 710 KNUS. It'll be 92 for the high, 94 Sunday, 95 Monday. Wow. Hot, hot, hot. Let me read you this off the wall. There is zero chance the Wall Street Journal releases that article without a Loctite sourcing. Now Trump will sue, himself go to discovery and possible deposition. That's, yeah. Tell me you have had a discussion on the radical left. I'm an old senior and have listened to you for years. Also listened to KNUS during the day, every day. Hugh Hewitt, Mark Levine, Larry Elder, Jeff Hunt, and watch Fox every night because you see the clips of what the other side is saying and doing. Don't know what that means, but I'll read it to you. Hey, John in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, man, you're on the show.
Hey, good morning. I wanted to interject a couple things here. One, without disclosing names, I trade commodities. You talked to me before. And so I've got a good friend that lives in the VI, and his house overlooks, and he can see Bezos' yacht from there. That's not to impress me, give you a sense. He's right there at ground zero. And so the island's off to the right of his property. He's elevated there because he wanted to buy a property due to hurricanes, etc. And so he FaceTimed me when this thing was going down. We're doing deals. I'm not making it up. I'm not blowing smoke.
No,
this is real. He holds up a FaceTime, and the helicopters are coming in, boats are coming in. I'm like, what are we looking at? And he goes, hey, they're busting this island today. Here's the FBI. You know, this is whatever, 5 years ago, whatever it was. But the point being is, on that island is where the Clinton Global Initiative parks itself. And why would you care? Why do people play ball down there? It's because you're exempt from federal taxes. You shield your taxes. And this is the reason he lives there. It's the reason he moved his trading operation down there, all of which is legal and fine. You don't get to vote is the deal there. That's the takeaway. But in that, probably 85 to 90% are Democrats. I'm not here to take sides on Democrat or Republican into account. That's not the point. But the point is the boys and girls would fly in, mainly the boys would fly in on the plane. They would do so-called business for the foundation and so forth. And it's all lawyered up down there. Again, numerous Democrats lawyered up down there. They all connect, and you can't get two words in down there if you are more right-leaning. But then after that was all over, that's when they would go, typically fly them and drop them in on the island there because it's disconnected with the rest of the land. Clinton was the only stupid one. You hear the stories about him taking a boat and getting caught at the dock or something like that. Almost just, blew the lid on the whole thing there. So you have that. The second thing I wanted to comment on, Maureen Comey is interesting, the daughter of James Comey. If you want to help.
She was fired. She was a prosecutor that was fired, right?
Yeah, and she was fired, but she was on both the Ghislaine Maxwell on behalf of the girls as well as the P. Diddy case, both of which were kind of weak. Now, she did put Maxwell a case, but you got to remember the judge actually slapped her hand a little bit because she withheld detailed information that would have helped out the girls, which, again, the DOJ withheld that little black book from court. Didn't admit it. It's 97 pages containing 2,000 names. So to say there's not a list, there is one from just that court appearance and admission of evidence alone, or rather the lack of evidence submitted there. But to me, Maureen Comey is interesting. If you want to help water down something, you go about it from the opposite side of the trial, and that is you water down the prosecuting side. Look at P. Diddy again, I say, and then look again how everything is kind of deep sixed with the Ghislaine Maxwell case there.
What is it you believe, and your thoughts about all of this? What is it? Where do you conclude?
I conclude, one, either Trump is going to use it. He is a user of people. I mean, I'm mad. I voted for him. He's not somebody I would around on my wife or daughter. I'll just say it. But I think he's either going to use it at the right time, or he really is on that in some fashion.
What's your gut? What's your gut? Tell me truly.
My gut says he got in there. Pam Bondi got in there snooping around, looking at it. And as it became the light, I think he found out there's more there in detail, either video, paper, records, whatever, than even he knew. And he's going, oh my gosh, this is It's going to disclose him or super powerful people that he could use. I mean, so one of two schools there.
One who we do know was there because of the pictures was Prince Andrew, and
yes,
I mean MI6 is pretty powerful, and Elizabeth was alive and Philip was alive, and they really were old school, and they really believed they were royal. You know, it wasn't like the rest of them who have shown up. Philip and Elizabeth were royals. This it wasn't a young man, but this was was their youngest son. He embarrassed him so badly that, they've just taken him out, and his nephew won't talk to him. But what do you think they did with MI6 when they find Prince Andrew on Little St. James Island?
Right. No, I think this is. I don't think the average schmo, average idiot here, including me calling in here.
You and I
don't think you don't. I don't think people understand at a certain income level, and I peck up against it. Not these guys. I'm not talking about the kind of guys.
No, I know what you're talking about.
But it's a completely different mindset with people who have a lot of money. They move the chips. They see it. I rub close enough to it where it's a completely different world, and they discount the things you and I think. It's just collateral damage. It's no big deal. And they live under a completely set of rules in a different world.
Yes.
And you just really can't understand how they think unless you're in that ring, hanging out with them. It's completely different.
I mean, I totally agree. And it's, what was the line in Gatsby when he says, "Let me tell you, the very rich, because they're so different than you and I." I think it's the opening sentence in Gatsby. And it is true. You're who you are, and we are who we are. But when it comes to now, and like I said, I could easily see this becoming Watergate, and they better be careful, and they better shut it down. And if the midterms go the other way, then they really have problems.
And that's where the elite rich and the average schmo that we're talking about bang against each other. It just won't go away because there's a right and a wrong, and the average person here trying to make a living, and they're not going to let it go that was done with those girls, and they don't like the fact that there's a different set of rules, that you and I would be serving prison time for a long time here, and these guys are getting off. Apparently the girls didn't do anything according to the Ghislaine Maxwell, because they there's no client list, and the girls are lying. I'm being facetious, but the girls are lying, right? If there's no client list.
Of course there is, and of course they. If you read about how they operated in Florida, is that she would go and they would proposition, runaway 14-year-old girls, and they'd bring them back to this mansion, and there was food and money, and they sent them upstairs to Jeffrey at a certain time. I think it was at 4:00 in the afternoon, and then when he was done with them, she would pay them to go out and find other girls like them. In other words, another runaway 14, 15, 13-year-old girl. And I mean, there are stories that there have been girls as young as 12 brought into this. And that's totally unforgivable. And that one picture of Andrew that he has his arm around that skinny little kid, what do you think? She's 14, 15?
Yeah.
And do you think that the British royal family gives a hoot in hell about her, or do you think
she just kill herself?
I think so, and I think and I have a friend who doesn't think that she killed herself. They said I
would agree with that as well.
She was really strong, and she was really tough, and she blew the whistle, and so that's when that MI6 thing came up.
So to this day, those islands down there, there's an island down there that the billionaires are pushing off the millionaires. You can't even go to this island. And it has nothing to do with the girls and all this. It just gives you a sense of the pecking order and the real game that goes on around the world. But a lot of those islands, there's hundreds upon hundreds of islands down there. So girls are moved around in the bow of 25-foot boats and other ones. And it goes on to this very day. It hasn't stopped, you know. And even at the Jeffrey Epstein's Island, if you look, I believe that was an old World War II depot, and a submarine would go into the island in a tunnel and it would warehouse all the weaponry. I know you got to go here. They converted all those rooms for the girls, and they would come up in the middle of that thing to that temple you see on top. Really sick stuff, man.
Great call. Well thought out. Folks on the phone, stay there. We continue on a Saturday. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS. Now I get to say it. Good afternoon, everyone. Saturday, July 19th, 2025, 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. Phone number is 303-696-1971. We opened the show with talking about the comparison analysis between Denver's Players and Sugar and the Epstein scandal. Mike Roberts, kind enough to join us from Westword, and then George Brauchler on a settlement, Salem Radio. Dick Wadhams dropped by. And we're in open lines, and pretty much all of it is Epstein and Trump and what is going to happen next. However, I take this phone call. Bernadette, I love the song. Bernadette, you're on a radio show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pete. Okay, you know what I'm going to ask you or tell you about. Yeah, your one-eyed man was a Jeopardy category.
Whoa, who were famous one-eyed men?
Well, Pete Boyles.
Yeah, right. But they
no,
really...
it was just kind of funny. They had a category about body parts, and the minute I heard it, I said, "That's the one-eyed man."
One-eyed man is back.
Yep.
But they had famous one-eyed men.
Well, according to what I've got from the internet, what do we got? Erasmus?
Who?
He was a Dutch philosopher.
All right.
I don't know. I don't believe anything I read on the internet.
Just make sure you believe talk radio.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now listen, Saturday morning, afternoon, I can't live without you.
You're kind.
Well, you always teach me something, and you bring authors on that I love and you love. So I'm grateful for that.
You're very kind.
Well, I just want to give you that little tidbit.
Thank you, ma'am. Be safe. Thank you.
You do the same.
Right.
Bye-bye.
We have a line open. Jay in Denver. Jay, you waited. Thanks. Good afternoon.
Hey, Peter. Been
Brother,
a while.
Thanks, man.
You still owe me lunch, but that's okay.
What I do?
You'll follow me a minute. Oh, no, with that long time ago, Trump would run, and I said if he runs, he wins, and he did.
Okay.
So we have that.
Which one?
But if you, this one.
Okay.
If you follow my thinking a second, then I'll get to my point.
All right.
If you can imagine it, you have the brain power to imagine it. It's already been done by someone, somewhere, somehow. It's physically possible. Somebody's tortured somebody in the worst imaginable way. They've murdered somebody in the worst way. They've done every sexual thing on earth that could possibly ever be done. I mean, somebody's done something. The rich and powerful do a lot of crazy stuff. They sure do. And politicians seem to have no bottom ever. There's just never a bottom to anything. So I was thinking that they had so many years to manipulate those files. They planted something in there quite easily and didn't do anything with it. Just left it there to be discovered. Ha ha. And there it suddenly was discovered. And that's what they wanted, but it's not working out real well for them. But what I was really curious was, did you see, and I think I was reading about it on Newsmax, where they're looking into trying to figure out if Trump could have really done this. So they ran it through an AI generator and asked the generator who wrote this. And it came up with a 90% match to Bill Clinton on its own.
I didn't see
Isn't that crazy?
I
Yeah,
didn't see
you got to
that.
look that one up. It came up, they asked, did Donald Trump write this? And the same AI generator gave it a 15% maximum probability.
But again, write what? Well, the...
Well, they use cadence and words and all kinds of history.
Okay.
So it looks to me like somebody took some of Bill's work and turned it into Trump's work, so that when Biden was gone and the Democrats were gone, they would discover it. Oh, my, look at this. Hey, look, we planted a seed. Now let's watch it grow. They put something there in my best estimation.
And I respect this. What are your thoughts about this? Just in general, overall thoughts about this entire thing?
I think Trump's playing it like Trump does. He's building it, turning it into a shiny squirrel. Look over there, and then he's going to diffuse it, and something big's coming down. That he just had everybody's head turned.
But he doesn't want it. He's tried to play it down. He doesn't.
Yeah, on purpose. He's timing it. He's a master of timing.
But what's the ultimate goal?
Everybody off to keep everybody distracted.
from
whatever is coming next, whatever he decides is bigger than this, and he wants to wait and drop it like a bomb.
conceivably, hypothetically. What if it's true? What happens then?
If it's true, he loses a ton of credibility, although he is the most transparent president ever, and by no close margin, even with Reagan. He's 100% open. It's ridiculous how transparent he is. But one little thing, and everybody hates you. I mean, you like to say you give a man lip service and you're gay for life, okay?
No, I understand.
That's it would be huge.
I really I see this thing headed either one or two ways. That it can be blunted by wide open transparency to everything and anything, or it can end up in a Watergate situation. And I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Or it simply isn't true, and he's not going to tolerate it.
What I'm saying, but he has to do something to show that it isn't true, other than to continue to just. I mean, what happened to Nixon was there was charge after charge after charge after charge, and then finally Nixon has that night on television when he says, and I'm not a crook. You need to know whether or not your president's a crook, and I'm not a crook, which was
very different.
Not in that sense.
In my view, it's not even close or even really relatable.
And I think it is. I think it runs the same. It's the same
Nixon
model.
Nixon really did it. Nixon got caught.
Well, Nixon.
But Nixon really did it. Trump keeps showing him that he didn't actually do it, and he was set up, and he keeps being right.
But the difference, Nixon, and I've had this conversation many times, Nixon did not know that the break-in was going to take place. He knew that there was, because somebody had put a sign on the door where they met. It said plumbers. Nixon wanted the leaks stopped. There were so many people feeding the media stories of the Nixon administration that he wanted those leaks stopped. And so he wasn't in charge of the team, but the team was charged with, for instance, they broke into Ellsberg's office, the Pentagon Papers, all of those kinds of things. And then ultimately they did the break-in into Whitewater. Nixon didn't know that. But most of Nixon, go ahead, I'm sorry. But
Nixon and Trump have very, very, very different situations.
No, I think not. I think it's a potential scandal that I think, and many historians believe, that had Nixon that morning when I forget one of the two aides, Halderman or somebody, when they finally say, look, Mr. President, this team that's been assembled did what they did. Instead of going out in the Rose Garden and taking responsibility, he began the cover-up. And this is now when...
True.
And so...
But if, like everything else, it's fake, which Trump's right, he keeps proving it's fake. In fact, Kristi Noem just dropped a bunch of interesting bombshells about Barack that are huge. They're way bigger than this. And if you're not aware of those, oh my God.
Well, of course, but I mean, there was Lyndon Johnson.
If it's not true, then that takes it completely, off course of anything Nixon-esque.
And Jay, that's what he needs to do, and he needs to do it as quickly as he can to just say, look.
He did. He already did.
No, he just said it. But
he said, all right, anything that can be released, release it. All of it, 100% of it. He said that. So what else can he do?
Well,
tell me what else can he do?
I'm not defending nor denying, but remember Nixon's tapes.
Yeah, but I'm curious. You say if he did this or he did that. Well, what else can he do? He just said release everything you can.
Let's see what happens.
Every bit of it.
Let us see what happens. Let us see what happens.
So what else can he?
Well, there's something that, this is in my spider sense. There's something that we don't know, or things we don't know, or people that are being protected. And that's...
people that are being protected. Number one, huge money being protected. as always, and Trump's not willing to die for them. He's willing to go out pretty far on a limb, but he's not willing to saw the limb off and drop.
Love your call. Smart call. Let's see what happens. It's a good call. Thank you. All right, we go to Matt. Matt in Littleton. Matt, you're on a radio show. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I'm going to push back a little bit, Peter, on that being a great call. That is that was my concern, the Trump fan mentality. You know, they have not fully absorbed the scale of this. Peter, you and I think we're on the exact same page of the potential epic proportions this has, the scale this has. Okay, this is the real deal. And Trump has chosen to go the deceitful, angry, cover-up way. And we know he is so full of it. And I want your thoughts, because Trump has basically implicated himself deeper than he should have been by his reaction.
Yeah, his reactions have been, when this first came up and Bondi was sitting there next to him, and he said, "You guys still talking about that crazy?" And I'm thinking, man, and Richard Nixon, remember the third-rate burglary? He used those terms, and he and eventually, in the case of Richard Nixon, it wasn't the crime, but we know that morning that he engineered the cover-up. Now here's Donald Trump sitting in the catbird seat. The difference is Donald Trump, I believe, may be involved in this. Nixon, with all intents and purposes, Nixon really didn't know those guys were going to do that, and yet when it was handed to him, he covered up for them and raised. Yeah, and that's. But look where it ended. On the back of.
What is it always the saying, Peter? The cover-up is worse than the crime, right?
Always.
Always the case. And so here's what I'm suggesting, Peter, and I think I'm right on the money with it, is that if Trump was clean, I think what's disappointing us right now, if Trump was clean, we would expect the same vigor of justice, remember 2015, 16, the campaign slogan, "Make America Great," but it was actually "Drain the Swamp." Right. And here he is face to face with this swamp. This is the swamp, meaning, and I don't think I'm too enthusiastic, but I'm saying that all these crimes against children and the border and the BLM and all these destructive social policies, I have a sneaky suspicion, Peter, that when you weed out those that we know are at least supportive of Jeffrey Epstein type lifestyles and behaviors, if they were weeded out of government and big business, I just have this feeling that government and culture and society would be a beneficiary of that. But we want to make America great again, but we don't want to deal with these people. To me, that tells me he's not clean then.
Well, the idea of a deep state, and other people have called it the establishment, it gets different names, the military-industrial complex, it's real. It has been real.
Yes.
It really emerges after the Second World War, when the United States is the only country left standing that hasn't been one level or another destroyed. Our currency is what the world now bases on our currency, and we slowly lose it. And I've said that this guy running for office in New York, running for mayor, he is exactly what happened with the British after the war, where the socialist workers' parties moved in and they took over the railroads and they took over manufacturing and they threw the British even further into the hole. We're at a crossroads right now, and this moment with Trump, he can handle it or and it'll get away. But if you go back to just all the nonsense that we're watching, it doesn't have to be. And
no.
And that's the sad
Trump
part.
himself, though, he cited in one of the debates in 2016, Trump now playing the Epstein file as a Democrat hoax, that's a tell he's concerned. Okay, he's trying to mush it in with the Russia. So for basically what I think the message is this to the MAGA fan, the Trump fan that says, even if this, I'm willing to give him a pass, and I'm just willing not to. But here's the thing, is the average American person that Trump's going to need in the midterms, certainly going to need to protect his ideologies, are they going to be okay knowing that their president made a best business decision for the country rather than the ugly hard work of eradicating this stuff from our country? And will they be okay with that? Because to me, that's like every other politician. At the end of the day, they sold out for the greater good of their own pockets.
And remember, Richard Nixon, Watergate's occurred, and the investigation has begun. Richard Nixon swamps McGovern. He just kills McGovern. And when he's being sworn in that January day, he knows he can hear steps. He knows what's coming, and yet they can't stop. And finally, and I think that that Bondi could become the John Dean of all of this, and it may be why she continues to stay because Donald Trump wants her there. But if they cut her loose, I mean, without John Dean's testimony, Richard Nixon, I don't know if he would have survived it, but it would have been a lot easier. And there's always somebody or something, and I don't know. I just have a bad feeling for this. And
I'm the exact same way. It's not being given the critical importance, meaning all these. And what I'm noticing, Peter, here's the scary thing, and I think what it's being done is from a White House kind of messaging. A lot of conservative talk around town and nationally. They don't want to go on this topic. This is sort of right now an off issue. That's not okay.
Unless it's defending, talk radio doesn't want to. It doesn't want. Fox News doesn't want to. But it's interesting because Rupert Murdoch owns Fox News and owns the Journal. The president announces a huge lawsuit against the Journal. Now, Rupert Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's no man's fool, and he paid almost $800 million already once on a Trump lie that they had stolen the election, and that's the stuff that runs through this radio station. And so Rupert Murdoch owns Fox and he owns the Journal. And I don't know if Trump should have sued. Just let it go. It's the New York Times.
It just tells me, Peter, he is building this sort of fraudulent conspiracy. That's what I'm saying. He made this about him when on the surface it shouldn't be about him. Are you actually telling us that you're a main player in this? Because if you're not, why wouldn't you want to get this resolved once and for all?
Let it go.
It makes no sense, Peter.
Yeah, and
he's going to toe it in.
And that was Nixon. And I can't help but see the similarities. And like we did this morning with Mike Roberts, the similarities between Denver Players and Denver Sugar and they're just striking. And the Denver Post and Channel 9 played the role that the Wall Street Journal is playing, that Fox News is playing now. The Denver police shut down the investigation as the DOJ did. The powerful people were able to get these guys off. And the sentencing, Scotty Ewing did 6 months home detention and Brenda Stewart did 6 months. That's a day at the beach, man, compared to what they had been doing. So, somebody knew something. Somebody messed with somebody. Thank you. Thank you for a good call.
Of course, great stuff.
Thanks, you, Pete. All right, you're welcome. We have a line open. It's Saturday. Good afternoon, everyone. July 19th. It's going to be hot. I got my motorcycle out there, 92, 94, 95, 94. Whew. Stay here. Coming up, there's one line open, 710 KNUS, Denver's Talk Station.
Your 710 5-day forecast today and Sunday. We're going to have sunshine, which will lead to a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms thanks to a weak monsoon. Weekend highs lower to mid-90s with lows in the mid-60s. Into the work week, more isolated storm activity confined to the foothills. Lots of sun on the plains. Highs continue to be hot in the mid-90s with lows upper 60s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Dawn Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Afternoon, everyone. It is July the 19th, 2025, 92 the high. Maybe some afternoon rain, 710 KNUS. Lines are jammed. Thanks for being here. I'll read this to you. Again, the wall has been lighting up. If anyone thinks Trump asked Lady Doodle an innuendo note to his former best friend, pedophile friend, is fake, you're gullible at best. Trump's known and proven sins are much worse. A guy with a 15-year-old level of development drawing a naked lady and implying sexual activity is not surprising. The difference here is communication to a known pedophile. Trump and everyone else knew at the time what Epstein was. Oof. Lines are full. Dan Capitalist Law. Dan suggests you choose an attorney who shares your values. And our family went through something, and I was worked with Dan, been working with Dan forever, and knew him, and he was the first call, and he was the right call, and he did the right things. We talk about Danny growing up, his dad being a cop, talk about his mom, and Capitalist is believed to be the only attorney in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar jury verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Also now believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. If something has happened in your family and you need a serious guy, it's Danny. He's such a good man. Dan Capitalist Law, the official law firm of the Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, serious firm for serious cases. Danny accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis. He can represent good people and does from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need help, and our family once did, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, 770-5551, or hit dancapitalistlawcom, CAPLISlaw.com. All right, here we go back to the phones. We go to Don. Don in Lakewood. Don, thanks. You're on the show. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Peter. Couple things. One, what is Trump eventually going to be guilty of?
Don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think it's more about the embarrassment of all of it.
Okay, so there's nothing prosecutable about any of this?
I don't know. I mean, I legitimately don't know.
And what is the embarrassment?
Well, that he was involved in this. I mean, would you be embarrassed if your name
involved in things with Epstein?
I think
earlier in his life, or what are we talking? Tell me what you mean by involvement. This latest round of him and Pam Bondi and the circus of all this going back and forth, and now these things coming out.
No, you say it's a circus, and circus is a good term for it, but I look at something like this and think there's a term called scandal, and we already know that he was convicted for paying hush money to a porn star, and he got past all of that stuff. It didn't matter, and he called him names and called it, I think, false smears, and then election interference and all that stuff that we're seeing now on the other end isn't there. So here are these two wealthy, powerful guys who frequently go on to town together, and your point, I think, is well taken. What's really wrong with that? On the other hand, what did happen? And that's, I think, what people want to hear or want to know.
You mean as far as Trump and his involvement with Epstein, as far as what really happened? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, if in fact there is, and that's what I'm saying. I mean,
So he's already, there's many pictures of him and Epstein years ago, and Trump has never denied that he didn't know Epstein, and he did come out at one point and said when he found out
he kicked him. Yeah.
Who Epstein really was, he was, 86th out of Mar-a-Lago and on. So there's a lot of stuff that has come out, but it doesn't, rise to the top because we have these other accusations, and there's definitely a lot of people that want to diminish anything about him. I mean, they've been doing it forever. Your caller, a couple callers ago, made mention about Kristi Noem and all the emails. That was actually Tulsi Gabbard. She's the head of the DNI. And the stuff
So
that she has.
what do you think is going on here, Don?
I just think it's a lot more of noise to distract from a lot of the things that are really going on. Everybody knows what a dirtbag Epstein was. Who cares whether he killed himself or not? I mean, Peter, you and I go way back on our reading, especially things about the CIA, its origins, all the nefarious things that have happened in our government, and still do. None of this is ever going to end. But, you know, how much time and money do we want to spend on this distraction? We have so many other things going on domestically, let alone around the world. I just can't get too wound up about it. And everybody's got a right to their opinion. If you want to be concerned about slander and Trump's behavior, well, I mean, that's definitely your opinion.
Well,
but I would just further focus on other things.
Well, I understand, but why has this become this major story and not because of a 4-hour radio show on a 2-bit station on a Saturday morning? This is stuff that's getting tremendous attention. In the Wall Street Journal, of all the newspapers in the country, that probably has the best reputation left. The Journal, why does the Journal report this huge, they make a huge story out of this Epstein asking Trump and people to submit letters for an album for Epstein's 50th birthday in 2003. I mean, the Journal was the voice of the conservative movement in America. And they have this letter that they say is Trump's. Why are they...
Do you think they still are? Do you think they still are the voice of the conservative movement?
I don't read papers at all. I read online. But
neither do I. But I would think the New York Post is much more the voice of conservatives.
Could be. But remember, it's also owned by Rupert Murdoch. And I think...
Which means...
Well, Rupert Murdoch took gas on the stolen election. But I would bet, knowing... at least I read a book about Rupert Murdoch and who he really is. But this had to be airtight before they would punch it. But again, the president has denied he wrote the letter, and he filed a libel lawsuit against the Journal and the reporters who wrote the story. And now they're coming back with pictures that Donald Trump died. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's Nixon-esque almost. And
well,
why does the Journal do this? I mean, why does the Journal, of all papers, Wall Street Journal, do this?
I don't know what the makeup of the Journal is today, who the people are, who's pulling the levers. I think back about Clinton. You want to talk about a scandal, dead to rights, lying to the public, guilty as sin, still lying, and then I wish they wouldn't have backed off and they'd just taken him out of office. Because all he did was proceed to go on, and the rest of it's history. Him, Hillary, the foundation. I use this loosely, but there's a lot of bodies buried.
Oh, listen, there's a place called Mena, Arkansas.
Yeah, sure is. Barry Seals used to fly in there with loads of cocaine.
That's right. And I do believe that the CIA certainly was aware of what they were doing.
And whose card was in the pockets of the 3 Colombians who snuffed Barry Seals?
I don't know whose card.
George W. Bush.
Well, we talked about earlier about if anybody believes that a Marine lieutenant colonel pulled off Iran-Contra all on his own, making it up on his own, and not asking for any permission, or just did it.
All he took big time for the country.
Well, and again, Epstein's involved in that. Epstein's involved with Adnan El-Khashoggi. He's his guy.
How old was Epstein when he died?
50. Oh, no, how old was he when he died? The birthday party, he was 50, 58, something like that, I think. Don't hold me to that.
Okay, well, if the birthday party was, 2003?
Let me look at what I got. Yeah, 50th birthday in 2003.
Okay, so that would put him 60. That would put him
66,
in 19,
yeah.
almost, was he 66? I'd say he's pushing close to 70.
Right.
So if he was 50, 40, he would have been in his 30s back during Iran-Contra. Didn't he go from being a school teacher into whatever he became?
At the Dalton School, and he never graduated from college. I mean, this guy's brilliant. He's a mathematical.
You think he was recruited?
Oh.
And if so, by which agency or agencies?
Of course. I mean, he even said that he was an asset of the CIA's.
Yeah.
And
But you've also heard the Mossad and everybody, a few other people.
So that's why it's a major. Let me read this. A major story because it's a story of blackmail, manipulation, and the worst thing, there are children involved. I love this call as well. The world, and I know your voice, and I know some of the things that you and I have talked about, and we have agreement on who these characters
90%.
Yeah, who these
90%. We're in. I've got a good friend, Dustin Mashari.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he and I are very, very close friends. I see him. He's like 2 blocks away from me. We see each other almost every day.
It's a good man.
Ask him who he put the money on between me and Kyle.
Say that again.
Ask Dustin the next time you talk to him.
Okay.
Who he would put the money on the match between Kyle Clark and me. Remember, I'm 74. You just ask Dustin, because Dustin knows.
Everybody wants a.
Here we go again.
Everybody wants.
Pete, I'm going to let you go, man. You got callers with more
Thank you.
serious stuff.
Thank you. Very, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we go to Gary in Denver. Gary, you're on a radio show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter.
Oh man, hi.
I don't remember Trump during his campaign really harping on the Epstein files. He was talking about mass immigration, the economy, and all of these things. And it only came to light, and I wondered why Pam Bondi, I don't know, must have been a couple of months ago. Remember when she distributed those binders?
She gave everybody binders.
And that's the only time it came to light. And I wondered, why is she doing what does this have to do with anything? And the binders didn't include anything that wasn't already available to the public.
But I remember when we did interviews with Bongino before he got the appointment, and he brought Epstein up and the scandal up, if that's the right word, just as a guest on air. He believed that it was being suppressed by the Bidens. But I think it's one of those. I think it's a lot. I've used this too many times, but you go to the dentist, he says open wide, and you put your hand inside his leg, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're not going to hurt each other." I mean, would you be shocked if Hunter Biden showed up on the list of the people who went to Little St. James?
Oh no, and regarding the list, Peter. Well, first of all, releasing the grand jury transcripts, redacted where necessary. One of my prior jobs is I would transcribe grand jury testimony. And I can tell you there's very little in that testimony. You've heard where they say they can indict a ham sandwich.
Sure.
There's just not a whole lot there. So anything that's released, Trump is going to approve. It'll probably only be this grand jury information, which will provide nothing. And it's all just not going to be, nothing's going to be revealed. And I don't know that there's a list. I think
I think there is.
Maybe there is. But if there's not a list, I think what people want is the documentation, like film, photos.
Well, the videographer that worked for Epstein talked about that he installed all these cameras, and now whether he did or not, I don't know. Maybe, but they made recordings, and Epstein had horrible as it sounds, he had cameras in his bathrooms, according to what this guy said, and he also had his New York place was wired. I found out through Chris Romer that they had a video camera outside of Scotty Ewing's that the Denver cops had put up on a telephone pole, is the story I was told, and they were seeing who was coming in and out. Never saw.
Yeah, and that's the.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's the kind of things I think that even Trump former backers are looking for. They want to look at data and, like you said, video, where they can discern who was raping children. And I think one of the reasons why Trump is holding back is, I look at it, people are saying, well, there's probably Democrats and Republicans in this information. I look at it more as Trump is looking at it as there are donors and potential donors.
Don't know. Again, it's listening to people talk. Gary, thanks. Folks on the phones, hang on. 710 KNUS, I'm Peter Boyles. Good afternoon. We're right back. Good afternoon, everyone. July 19th, hot outside. Dustin just called. The guy, we'll put him on the show in a second. It is 710 KNUS. Let me read this too, because there are a lot of people were said about the Iran-Contra. This is what has been printed about 4 or 5 different places if you do a search. It's been reported Epstein had connections to individuals involved in Iran-Contra. And again, I'm reading this. According to Wikipedia, during the 1980s, one of Epstein's clients was Adnan Khashoggi, a Saudi Arabian businessman who acted as a middleman in transferring American weapons from Israel to Iran as part of the Iran-Contra. That Khashoggi was, again, among several defense contractors known to Jeffrey Epstein. Additionally, in 2020, former Israeli intelligence officer Ari Ben Mashad claimed that Epstein and Maxwell were Israeli intelligence agents involved in a honey trap, an operation to gather information for Israeli intelligence. Although these claims remain unsubstantiated, the Israeli agent is notable for revealing details of Iran-Contra in the 1980s. It's important to note that Epstein's involvement in Iran-Contra appears to be indirect through his association with Khashoggi, and some claims, like those made by the Israelis, were disputed and unsubstantiated. But that's that. Now, this guy said he heard his name on here and he called the show. Is this the legendary Dustin who just had things said? Hey, Dustin, you're on the show.
Hey, good morning, Uncle Pete. How are you?
My boy. What is this about?
The guilty is sin and uncomfortable in their skin, and that goes for all parties involved here. They should be ashamed of themselves, each and every last one of them. But you can't tell the country that we've already investigated little green men from Mars, because that would ruin religion and collapse the world. So therefore, this is the same sort of scenario. You can't let the truth be known. You'd collapse everything.
Now take this down to my terms, or layman terms, that I understand what you mean.
Well, first let's talk about Don. 74 years old. That guy will still give you change for $1. He can walk away with 56 cents at a bare minimum. You're going to get shortchanged.
Okay, now just tell me what when you said something before. What speak it in plain English.
Guilty as sin and uncomfortable in their skin.
Yeah,
that's every last player involved on the Epstein list, which does exist.
All right. And?
Well, I mean, look at the hierarchy that this involves. You cannot tell the truth because too much would collapse.
What would happen if all the accusations that are being made by Democrats and people in the media are true? What would happen?
Well, both political parties would be at fault, I'd imagine, because the list involves both sides. What does Elon Musk's America Party take precedent in?
I don't know. Do you believe? Do you believe? I have a friend who is. Do you believe that there are Saudi princes went to the island?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
More than once, more than twice.
So.
Everybody always says, treat your body like a temple, and I've been treating mine like an amusement park. What do you think that was? That was an amusement park over there.
And so, how does Trump play into this, to the best of your knowledge, or out of it?
Well, he's a card in the deck.
That's it?
His involvement with Epstein would be more than could be told. It would be like me and Don. We're good buddies.
Right.
But we'd never admit it, but he did on the radio.
So, in this new Wall Street Journal report, among Donald Trump's claims or demands that his supporters stop pursuing questions about Epstein in the wake of his administration's, they go, botched handling and dismissed disclosures. What? Read that. Has rekindled interest in the matter. Trump is now relented a bit on disclosure, instructing the Justice Department to seek to unseal any and all pertinent grand jury testimony. The DOJ moved to do that on Friday. So
how do you put your toe in the water without jumping all the way in? This is a Nixon-esque flyby from the Trump administration, in my opinion. They're guilty parties here. Back to the Democrats with Bill Clinton that Don mentioned. You can't take this away and you can't hide it. It's got to come out at some point.
Good call. We're coming up on the end. We go to Andy. Andy, thank you. You waited. You're on the radio show. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You know, I was telling your screener that I think this goes so much farther than just a pedophile thing. And I think anybody that kind of does a deep dive starts to see a connection to these really high players, like head of Disney, head of the Hyatt Hotel, head of JP Morgan. And yeah, these guys should be ashamed. If somebody accused me of like being unfaithful to my wife, or God forbid, even something more disgusting than messing with a kid, I'd be humiliated. So yeah, Trump should be disgusted.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that, and like I said, Roberts was with us this morning. That's why Roberts had a headline, and I've saved it here somewhere, about how the power elite saved Michael Hancock. They in Denver, with the case that I'm not familiar with much of Epstein other than what I read, but I lived through all of this stuff in Denver with Hancock, and the people who killed that story and protected Michael Hancock did not do so because they loved Michael Hancock. They did so to protect themselves.
Yeah, I think there's really, the more that I spend on this, the more disgusted I am about how big this whole pedophile ring probably really is, and how many players are involved in it. But I think there's also another layer to it that says more and more American people are being, I think their viewpoint is there's a different set of rules for the elite, whether it's
always
how much money Nancy Pelosi has made in office, or how much nonsense Trump can get away with, or Hunter Biden. I think people are just going to get so disconnected with the system.
Remember,
and that's where there's going to be a problem.
There was a great line from Mick Jagger, of all people. He said, "Your laws do not pertain to me."
Yeah, for sure.
Jagger said that, and
I don't want to. I want to be delicate on this next piece, but I think that character Luigi that killed that executive, I think you're going to see more and more of that. As people become more disenfranchised with the system and they feel powerless, what else are they going to do?
You know, as an old man and have watched a lot of stuff and seen some stuff and seen some things happen, you know, nothing, I was telling somebody about this, nothing really shocks me or surprises me. I mean, I think people, unless you're a complete idiot, you don't see the connection between Trump and Epstein, and it just keeps coming out more and more and more. Here's one we talked about. How does Diddy play out in this?
I think it's just a different branch of the same tree. I think it's like a Venn diagram. You have some of his players that probably intermix with some of these players. Yeah. I think it's a lower rung, because I think Diddy's a small player when you start talking about guys who run Disney or run the Hyatt or run, you know, all these different high-end pieces, you know. I know it's conspiratorial.
Hey, listen, that's why there's a RICO. I tell people it's not conspiratorial. Well, then why do we have a RICO Act? I gotta pull the pin, Andy. Thank you. Be back next Saturday, and we'll do it again. It is interesting to do a show like this at this radio station. I love the management people who say, "Yeah, go ahead and do a show." So having Michael on, and then having George come on, and having Dick Wadhams come on, it's all good stuff. All right. All best I can say now is take care of yourselves, and by the time we get to next week, I'm sure we'll know much more. That is it. Good afternoon, everyone. Stay safe. Adam, thank you. Adam Walker, thank you. I'll see you next week at 9 a.m. on Saturday here on 710 KNUS.